In a simple house, a person asks for a few more days to fix their mistake. The person who until then was asking for time informs that they will pay as soon as they receive their payment. However, an elderly man sitting nearby also states that he is financially broke and therefore needs the money. He informs the young man that he still has his house to use as collateral for the payment. He then asks why he doesn't use his residence as a guarantee. However, this makes the boy in the jacket angry, and he asks what else the old man, with his insistence, would like to take from him. But in a bargaining tone, the old man, with a greedy glint in his eyes, reminds the guy that his family is in the hospital. However, a girl appears on the scene and asks why they are still bothering little Tang. The two are mesmerized by Zhao. Tang wonders how someone as beautiful as Zhao could be dating a thug. He feels sad as he remembers that the woman will marry Sun Xiangzi and laments this. With things resolved, Sun says that due to his girlfriend's kindness, he will give the young man another week. He then kicks the man out of his own house. However, he forgets who he is talking to and curses his debtor. This makes the debtor angry again, and he asks who he is talking to. Trying to cover up his mistake, Tang says he is cursing himself for being poor and living in a slum. Finally, he introduces himself as Tang Feng, a slum dweller with nowhere to fall hard. He laments that he cannot eat decent food or live in a good house, not even to take a shower or find a girlfriend. Angry with his suffering, he punches the wall and says this cannot continue, otherwise he will lose even his house. After punching the wall, he notices something different. He wonders what that is on his wall. For some reason, there is a QR code on the wall, so he takes out his phone to try to see what it is. Then he begins the scanning process, but something even stranger starts to happen after reading the code. The young man's phone notifies him that Yu Lao Che has become his best friend, but he doesn't understand what is happening. With that, a system projects in 3D in front of him and welcomes him for entering the celestial circle of friends that allows him to connect with gods. Not understanding anything that is happening, Tang sees messages on his phone about what to give as a gift to someone. In his thoughts, the main character finds this interesting and says that even gods care about trivial things, communicating that he should give something from the human world. Sitting on his throne, the first god appears and asks who is communicating with him. Upon reading the message, he finds it funny and says that the person really believes in this kind of prank. Then the immortal questions his follower about what gift to give. Thus, the boy in the jacket takes a picture of the speaker and asks why not give something like that. Still thinking that all of this is just a farce, he sends the messages. When suddenly the immortal receives the recommendation from his supposed follower. Thinking that this is just a bad joke, when Tang notices that the speaker has truly disappeared, he becomes worried. Then the god, realizing he would give an amazing gift, asks his follower what he desires as a reward. Tang is extremely surprised and happy, but still feels a step behind and therefore asks several times about the request. With all the suffering he has been thinking about, he manages to come to just one conclusion. His final decision is that he wants to become a multimillionaire, a desire that echoes the greed consuming him. Thus, the immortal informs that he will make Tang a truly rich person. With the wish made, something begins to happen to the guy. He quickly starts to feel something different in his hands. Holding something in his hand, the young man questions if it is some kind of legendary fertilizer. Then the god responds that it is not what the young man thinks it is, but rather celestial soil. But the guy does not seem happy with the reward given and laments this, saying goodbye. Obviously, this would not please Tang. So angry, he throws the gift given by the immortal on the ground. However, he reconsiders his decision and begins to correct his mistake, saying that it came from a celestial being and therefore must be something different from the human world. Thus, he throws tomato seeds into the sacred soil to see what might happen. He pours a little water to fertilize the earth, and the result appears almost immediately. Every second that passes, the tomato plant grows even more. This surprises the boy in the jacket with the result. However, the planted tomatoes are different since they are all too big. With this, the MC tries to understand how he can use them for consumption, but he doesn't reach a definitive conclusion and thinks of something different. He headed to a restaurant in an attempt to sell the tomatoes, but the security guard blocks his entry, saying he doesn't want his products. However, he doesn't accept that as an answer and asks the guy to just try eating one, but the man refuses. Just when he thought it was all over, someone taps him on the shoulder. The person asks what our hero is trying to sell, and he replies that they are just big and delicious tomatoes. The other security guard thinks it's nothing but a bad joke, but still, he is willing to try. So he takes a big bite of a tomato that is also big, but the effect is the opposite of what he expected, as it is excellent. Realizing that this would completely change people's taste, the man tries to negotiate, saying he wants all the tomatoes. To make the MC fully accept the proposal, the owner offers something around 100,000 and wants an exclusivity contract from now on. Then we are thrown to a betting house. There is the protagonist's lone shark playing calmly. However, his cell phone notifies him with a message from our hero saying he will pay his debt. Nevertheless, the old man finds it strange that the MC actually paid him, so he must go check what is happening. But the other guys don't want to let Xiangzi leave after winning so much. Thus, his only option is to call Jiao and ask her to go to the hero's house. With that, we return to the MC's house. Inside his house, he is happy due to all the money he has earned and the fact that he has paid his debts, so he thanks the immortal people. However, things don't end there, and a celestial old man offers the young man a rope of destiny, but warns that it is still in beta. He agrees to be the player test, and the rope starts to come out of the cell phone, wrapping around his other hand. While he was receiving the rope, Joe calls him from outside. He then opens the door, asking why she is there. She informs him that she made rain cakes and asks if he would like to eat some, but deep down, she knows the reason for her presence. Thus, he thanks her for the gift. However, something unusual happens, and the rope given by the celestial man wraps around one of the woman's arms. Not just one, but also the other. This changes the girl's behavior, making her shy. The effects don't stop there, as she invites herself inside with ulterior motives. Inside the MC's house, she gives a light jab, saying that this is not a good place to live. Therefore, she says she will help clean everything, but first, they should eat. The rain cakes look good and smell wonderful. Totally seduced by the protagonist, the girl informs him that she added pieces of meat to give him more energy. Thus, a beautiful couple scene is formed with her feeding the young man, who comments on how delicious the food is. Shy and seemingly for no reason, the woman comments on not having any luck in things. Noticing Joe's dissatisfaction, the poor young man asks what she means by Xiangzi being a coward. Then she replies that wherever that man puts his feet, he is sure to get into trouble. Listening to what the girl has to say, he turns his face to talk and understand her better. But that doesn't happen, as the girl throws herself at him. Her charm is strong enough to make our protagonist not refuse what is happening. However, he questions her behavior and his thoughts. That's when he remembers that this can only be happening because of the rope of destiny. Thus, Zhao pleads for our hero to save her from the suffering that Xiangzi has been causing her. She moves even closer to the protagonist, who, in turn, refuses to take advantage of the situation. Finally, the words ran out, and all that was left was action. But obviously, the MC is not that kind of person, so he pushes the girl away. At least that's how it seems at first. For some reason, he is in control of everything now. While the woman is like a hostage, he thinks about what to do to help her with this suffering. What was expected at first changes, and so does its objective as it moves forward. However, something happens again. Apparently, the effect that was in place has ended, and this makes the poor woman slap his face while questioning his attitude. With that, she says she will return home, but Tang holds her back, wanting to explain. Then he notices that the thread of fate has unraveled. Zhao, not understanding what it's about, asks him to let her go. Thus, she takes her phone and starts typing desperately to the celestial man. While the old immortal rested peacefully, our hero flooded him with messages about the thread having failed. The old man, noticing that the MC wouldn't stop sending messages until he was answered, picks up his phone to see what the conversations say. Then he gives a brief explanation that fate is temporary, just like the thread. Angry that the thread failed at such an important moment in his life, the protagonist comments that it is useless. Upon hearing that his invention is worthless, the immortal man becomes extremely angry this time. He quickly creates another thread of fate, wanting to prove his capabilities, but warns that this one is too powerful and ignores all existing rules. Still, our hero does not believe it, and says it will just be another poorly made invention. The old man replies that it's fine if he doesn't believe, but again warns about the power this thread possesses. With that, the system notifies that the download of the thread has been completed and that it can now be used. Then the evolved thread of fate spawns in the human world, and our protagonist is astonished by the difference. However, he finds himself in a dilemma, since if he uses the thread on Jiao, he will be with her for the rest of his life. The girl seems confused by what the MC is doing. With all his courage, our hero holds Zhao and tells her that he will take care of her for the rest of his life. But in the background, Xiangzi appears. Realizing he could be cuckolded, the young man gets furious at the situation. A fight between the two begins, and the lone shark lands a punch squarely on the protagonist's face. The poor girl tries to question the guy's attitude, asking why he is doing this, and he says it was for this reason that she was taking so long to return. He again asks the MC what he was doing, and our hero replies that he was doing nothing with the woman. Then, out of nowhere, the old lone shark's crew appears, ready to take him down. Everyone gathered there starts to pet the protagonist. The girl, seeing this, cannot remain silent and asks if her boyfriend is crazy. Of course, the young man wouldn't care about the Maria de Penha law and quickly pets his girlfriend. Again, with his courage at its peak, the MC asks him not to do anything to the woman, and if he wants to take it out on someone, to take it out on him. Satisfied with the treatment he gave our hero, he asks the guys to rest their hands for a bit. But it seems the lone shark's goal was just to find out how the protagonist managed to pay him off so quickly, to which Shaqueta Tang says he sold his blood. Due to the response that Sukun gave to the fair collector, he questions whether his blood is worth as much as a panda's and asks for the truth. And out of nowhere, the protagonist strikes back strongly. Leaning against a wall, he asks a simple question to Xian. Which person in this world has no secrets they wouldn't want to share? Thus, the young man questions what the protagonist means by such nonsense. Then our hero, with a challenging look, says he will reveal the loan shark's secrets. The words refer to the fact that the old loan shark is complete trash and a man who cannot satisfy his woman. This echoes deep within the young man's soul. Obviously, the fair collector wouldn't let this slide. He grabs the protagonist by the hair and says he must follow him. Next to the pigsty, the MC asks what Sun Shang will do with him. Without explanation, Sukun pushes his head down to the ground. Thus, he continues and warns that unfortunately, it won't be worth it to take down poor Tang, but in the end, it was he who asked for this fate. Then he bids farewell to the young man who will be taken to be thrown into the giant's attack. The fate will be sealed in a few seconds, but the poor pig, with a captivating look, prayed that the next one wouldn't be him, while the girl behind watched Tang Feng being taken down mercilessly. Meanwhile, in the midst of despair, the MC remembers that he has something to help him. First, he lassos the pig with the rope of destiny, and soon after, the loan shark, his subordinate, tries to understand what has happened since his boss left the Tang to go towards the pig. Due to the effects of the rope of destiny, the old loan shark and the pig of love are sealed forever. The guy's ex and her henchmen try again to comprehend what they are observing. Happy that he would come out alive, the protagonist contemplates the power of the rope. His men even try to separate their boss from the pig, but nothing works. The next day, Yaqueta Tang is at home relaxing from his injuries, while thinking that one less problem will torment him. Thus, we have a mini flashback of the loan shark running with his pig, saying that they will never be separated by anyone. Then we return to the protagonist, who is still thinking about something that makes him sad. What he is thinking is that he still hasn't delivered his products to manager Liu. Therefore, he prepares to call Liu, but a notification pops up in his email. That email makes the protagonist enter a frenzy since he was expecting this type of response. A message from a stranger appears on Sukwin's cell phone. With this, he thinks that the Silver Guardian should be guarding the cauldron of the Supreme Lord. Then he remembers that there might be pills in that place that could help with his treatment. While the Silver Guardian was distracted, our hero takes the opportunity to comment on the sweets that the guy wanted. However, the unicorn tries to counter-argue, saying that he wouldn't want any sweets and that it makes no sense at all. Realizing that there would be no other way out, all that was left for the guy was to plead that he not tell the Supreme Lord about this. Then Tang says that he won't talk about it and that he has a sweet from the mortal world to give to the Silver Guardian. Therefore, upon receiving the sweet, the young man asks if it is really that. He is surprised because those candies can pop in the mouth. Obviously, that wouldn't be for free, so Tang warns that he would like some healing pills. But the unicorn says that he can't just take things from his lord without permission. Upon hearing this, our MC questions about the payment for the sweet. However, to avoid complicating things with his lord, the guy offers another type of pill that can help increase strength and life. With that, he sends the protagonist his strength and life pills. Thus, on the other side, our hero receives the medicines. Clearly, the man is disappointed because those medicines look like chocolate balls. But anyway, he needs to try the pills. Upon ingesting the pills, something strange begins to happen to him. His body gradually changes, giving him chiseled abs and strong biceps. However, the effects of the pill make Jaqueta Tang question the uselessness stated by the unicorn. While he was amazed by the powers he could obtain, something happens outside. An angry blonde and his crew are entering while searching for Tang Feng. Not understanding what is happening, he asks how he can help the blonde. Before anything else, the guy would like to introduce himself as Liu Shenkai, a young master. But Shenkai is only there to ask if the protagonist is working with the King Yuan restaurant and that after his entry, sales have increased significantly. With a mocking smile, the guy prepares to lay the cards on the table and proposes the sale of all the MC's land to the blonde. However, our hero doesn't seem interested in this type of deal at all, so he asks what happens if he doesn't accept. What will happen is simple. The blonde will order all his henchmen to break Sukwin if he refuses. However, the man's reaction is to wonder where those extras got weapons to take him down. He knows he can't be hit by all those guys because if that happens, he will certainly become a shirt of memories. With no way out, he tries to think of what he can use to defend himself. His only solution is to use his hands to protect himself. A bald extra runs at him, shouting. But just in time, our protagonist comes to a conclusion and will use a flick as a weapon, warning that if the guy gets close, he will get one to stop being foolish. With the target locked, all that remains is to use his power to defeat one of the extras. The impact of the flick was strong enough to send the guard flying, one less to break the MC in half. Everyone tries to understand if that is some kind of deadly machine or some power. The defeat of just one security guard was enough to make the others retreat in fear. Not only the extras, but also the blonde himself is in shock. To avoid being defeated, the blonde boy comments that this must be some trick and asks everyone not to be afraid. This has an effect on his guards, who charge at the protagonist. Apparently, what was left for the Tang jacket was to wait for his fate, or at least to fight for it, since he hasn't given up and is battling with what he can against one of the bald men, using his thumb to defeat them. So far, 3 of the security guards have already been defeated. All of them are lying against the wall. He is impressed with the power of the pill, as with just a thumb he managed to defeat several people. However, someone other than the henchman appears in his residence, saying that his skills are truly impressive for someone so young. That previously unknown person reveals himself to be the blonde boy's uncle, and he takes the opportunity to ask his uncle to take care of our protagonist. Thus, our hero tries to explain that it was actually the blonde boy who started all of this and asks if the old man participates in the fight. Won't he have a heart attack? Therefore, with a somewhat sad look and his head down, the old man says that if our hero really manages to defeat him, he will be happy about it. Apparently, he is not to be underestimated as he lets a bit of his aura escape, terrifying everyone in the place. Our MC tries to understand why a skeleton and such a powerful aura appeared right behind him. So that the MC is not completely disappointed by the old man, he decides to attack first, as that is his plan. But it has no effect as the old man with just one hand manages to deflect the trajectory of the shot. Then our protagonist, seeing that, tries to understand how it was possible to do that. He didn't even know he could do those kinds of things. That's why the blonde boy takes advantage of the situation to further praise his uncle. Thus, the foolish one there starts saying that nothing is strong enough against his uncle and asks the protagonist to take a good look at himself. When it is revealed that even before moving, the boy had already caused damage to the protagonist, the nephew takes the opportunity to ask his friend next to him to go and break the protagonist as soon as possible. Then the old man says that it won't be bad to have such a young person and asks the protagonist to prepare himself. Therefore, in a heron-like position, he prepares to attack our hero. The first blow could already be felt, and Tang is unable to keep up with the attacks due to the speed the old man puts into each one of them. Another blow is coming towards him. Not even this time, with a little more clarity, does our MC try to dodge. Had that attack landed, it would have caused fatal damage to our hero. But fortunately, he managed to see it in time, and then he manages to deliver a strong enough punch to that old man to make his face sink into the ground. The poor guy, who until then thought he was strong enough to never have been defeated, is now on the ground completely exhausted. Meanwhile, his nephew tries to understand what exactly is happening. With that, our MC managed to defeat him and made some criticisms, saying that he is not a master at all. This time, it will be the Tang Jacket who imposes himself, as he has defeated all of the blonde boy's henchmen, and therefore asks him to call the rest of his gang for the fight. He is completely amazed, as the cycle of divine friendships is truly very good to have. After the fight against the blonde's uncle, our protagonist headed to meet his tomato buyer. Our MC is not going to offer just tomatoes now, but also other types of vegetables. The restaurant manager thanks him and says it is a pleasure to work with the protagonist. He replies that it is a pleasure for him as well. Then, in the middle of the forest, we can hear some types of noise. The noise is coming from notifications on the protagonist's cell phone. He informs the manager that he needs to check these messages. On his phone, the notification that arrived was that Yang Ting wanted to be friends with our MC. However, this left our MC somewhat worried. Yang Ting Ting, a girl who from the photo is very charming. After mentioning someone's name, the manager asks who it is, and the MC replies that it was a message from a blind date app. The manager seems to know about this kind of thing and asks if our hero managed to do well with the girl. Knowing he can't tell the truth, he makes up an excuse, saying that everything went well. Then we have a flashback from a month ago, where the protagonist went out to meet this person and asks if the woman there is Ting Ting. The girl responds that yes, asking the same question about being Tang Feng. Given how Tang is, he falls in love at first sight. With that, Wang approaches him and starts asking about zodiac signs and complimenting his appearance. After getting to know each other, the girl asks if he would like to go to a quiet place to talk. However, Tang offers his house for that. Apparently, he is not the only one who gets emotional when meeting someone new, as she does not seem to refuse the idea. Thinking he would be rejected, the protagonist asks if it's a bad idea. However, she replies that it's not and asks them to go soon. Then we return to the present time, where the MC explains that he really enjoyed the date. After the brief conversation, we go back to their flashback, where the girl is astonished by the protagonist's house. The two are standing in front of a house that looks more like a dump than a residence. This makes her completely reject the poor guy and leave the place, just saying goodbye. Back in the present, manager Liu tries to console the MC, telling him not to worry about it. Looking at his phone, he tries to understand how this could happen to him. However, the girl has already sent 3 messages. In the messages, she informs that she was shocked by the guy's poverty, and that's why she left without even saying goodbye properly, and she asks for another date. Thus, he looks at Liu and thanks him for the help. In the following messages, the guy in the jacket does not refuse Wang, and they schedule a date for the next day. The poor guy is all happy at home for finally being able to go on another date. But it was obvious that he would be interested in seeing what she had been up to in the last few days, so he checks her Instagram. On her Instagram, he finds that he can only see the last 3 days of posts. He is clearly shocked by what he might see on the girl's Instagram, but even so, he clicks because he is prepared for whatever it is. On May 23rd, just normal messages. On the 14th, some screenshots of bank transfers to someone. And finally, on the 8th, there were screenshots that would hurt the MC. The screenshots showed her talking to a person named Jin. The poor guy is in shock from what he just saw. Despite being sad, he gets angry and starts cursing the girl. He almost breaks his own phone but holds back because he knows it's not worth it over a woman. However, he needs to vent his anger or he won't be Tang in a jacket. So he takes his phone again and goes into his contacts list. He also enters the contact of an immortal person. The line of thought of our MC consists of using his immortal friend to deal with the girl, but he questions whether it's right or not. But after remembering the screenshots and the conversations, he disregards morality. Thus, we are taken to where the god of evil resides. In this sacred place of the god, he prepares a vial to give to the protagonist. The vial scent brings bad luck to the person who inhales it. So our MC asks what the god of evil would like to receive for sending that. Therefore, the evil one replies that he would only like the vial to be returned filled with something. Some time passes and the guy in the jacket goes to the designated place. There, Tang Feng waits for Wang Tingting. Due to the location where they meet, the girl questions whether he became rich overnight, but he replies that no, he just did a small job. The girl ends up revealing in the conversation that the MC is the type of man she is looking for and confirms this in her thoughts. Thus, the protagonist prepares to take his revenge and takes the vial out of his pocket, presenting it as a gift. Unaware that this would lead to her ruin, Tingting accepts and asks if it happens to be an expensive perfume. She then opens the vial and takes a deep sniff of the smoke. The girl mentions that she liked the gift and that it has a sweet and woody scent. To know if he was giving something that would really work, the MC ended up sniffing a bit, which resulted in him having diarrhea. Not understanding the expressions he was making, the beautiful woman asks what is happening to him, but he replies that it's nothing. With the waiter nearby to take orders, the MC offers a dish called escargots. However, the girl starts to feel unwell at that moment. Thus, our hero asks if something happened and says he can change the order if she doesn't like it. However, the girl gets up from the table and says she needs to go to the bathroom first. The protagonist cannot let one go alone, so he goes with her. The poor thing starts coughing violently. She cannot understand why she is feeling so unwell. Then our hero asks if she is pregnant, which puts her on alert. True or not, the woman responds that she is still censored in the important parts. Therefore, the young man asks her a single question. If she is not pregnant, why is her belly so big? That's when she notices that she has a huge pregnancy belly. Upon realizing this, she begins to question how she could be pregnant like this. Obviously, all of this is part of the MC's plan. After preparing, he tells her that she is disappointing. The girl, upon hearing this, gets extremely angry and tells him to shut up. Wow, the girl has been with more than one guy and now doesn't know who the father is. In any case, she starts sending messages to several of the guys she has been with. It's not over yet, as there are still a few who haven't received the message. However, she is foolish and ends up sending it to her work group. After discovering she was pregnant, the girl was also fired from her job. The only person she is sure could be the father is Mr. Jin, so she calls him. But Jin doesn't want to know about it and shifts the responsibility to Li and Tang, saying she had been with those guys to get money from them. After that, the con artist hangs up on her, and she is left feeling foolish trying to talk to him. The poor thing doesn't know what to do with her life anymore, so she decides to call Jin again. She screams on the phone, saying she doesn't want to hear anything and that the child is really his. But unfortunately, the foolish girl called her mother. With that, her own mother starts arguing with her, saying she is no longer her mother after discovering her irresponsibility. We had forgotten that the blame for this happening lies with the MC who set her up, and in the end, he thinks this is a great outcome. Then Wine notices that next to her, our hero is finding all of this amusing. Thus, she leaves. But the poor guy didn't want to go any further and is ready to offer the vial that will reverse this. A few days have passed since the meeting, and the MC is dedicated to improving his life with his harvest. After a long time away from home, Tang Feng's relatives finally return home after consuming the fruits of the gods. However, shortly after bringing his parents home, his sister also arrives calling for him. He is extremely happy to see his sister and asks the reason for her return. His sister, however, is not alone, as she also brought her daughter. So holding his niece, he asks if the little girl missed him. She replies that she did. The protagonist's father, seeing that his whole family is gathered after a long time, says it is a reason to celebrate so everyone can drink. Leaving the place, Grandpa takes the opportunity to ask his granddaughter if she missed him. The little girl replies that she did. However, our protagonist is very perceptive and notices something different about his sister. His sister has injuries on her neck, probably caused by someone. Thus, he questions his sister and asks what that injury on her neck is. He tells her that she can lie to other people, but she cannot lie to him. Knowing she couldn't lie to her own brother, the girl prepares to tell who did this to her. She continues and says that her brother-in-law had accumulated many gambling debts and was getting extremely nervous, which is why he decided to leave home. Our hero, who is no fool, is extremely shocked and angry to hear this from his own sister. While the two siblings were talking, someone shouted for Tangwakukui to come back soon. A smoking lady and the mushroom head ask how Tangwakukui had the courage to do this to them after all that time together. The two gentlemen ask what their son-in-law is doing there and also question the reason for their anger. Realizing that things could get out of control, our MC asks his father and mother to go inside the house and take his sister and niece with them. More angry than usual, our protagonist asks what they mean by his sister leaving where she lived to hide at her relative's house. Thus, the mushroom head says that since the woman there is the debtor's wife, she must pay all of his accumulated debt. However, Tangwakukui says he will try to find a solution to this problem, but asks for patience. The old smoker says she doesn't want a solution, she wants her money. She asks them to sell the house and the land that the brothers own to pay the debt. These remarks only make our protagonist even more stressed, and he questions why the old man and the mushroom head don't sell their house as well. The mushroom replies that they don't have a house or land to do that. He also suggests that if they can't sell the house and land, they should sell his niece to pay the debt. Noticing such arrogance, our hero prepares to fight and grabs the young man's collar. It doesn't stop there, as the mushroom head says that if they don't make the payment, he will spread rumors about his family. Finally, our protagonist reaches the peak of stress, but he still can't do anything because he knows they are wrong, so he asks what the amount is. With that, the annoying young man responds that the debt is around $80,000. Meanwhile, on the protagonist's phone, the immortal gods are sending him items. He feels happy because he knows that this can help him in that situation, so he prepares to download. That clamp even scares the mushroom head, but he still questions where the payment money is, reminding our MC that if he doesn't make the payment, he will spread rumors about his family. With no way out, our MC prepares to use their clamp and says, "Here is your payment." He uses the clamp on the mouth of that annoying young man. The poor guy's tongue starts to grow a lot. This also scares his mother, who sticks her tongue out. The MC isn't foolish, so he takes advantage of the fact that his mother also stuck her tongue out and pulls it, making it long as well. With things resolved, our protagonist makes a joke and asks if the people have a problem with their tongues. Clearly, the protagonist's plan worked since both people run out of the place asking for help. Finally, his sister appears back. She is completely in shock, wondering what is happening. Thus, Sukintang replies that his sister doesn't need to worry because as long as he exists, she won't have to face any fear. A few days after all that confusion, we are back at Manager Liu's restaurant. Our MC is there to sell some of the fresh products he has been collecting lately. The manager is completely astonished because he has never seen such large fish. He wonders how the protagonist is managing to bring all that to him. Then we have a brief moment where our hero used water given by the gods to make the fish grow big. He took advantage of this and poured the water he collected in front of the river he owns and also threw some fish there so they could grow. So those fish that were once small became extremely large. While he thought about all the work he had to collect the fish, Manager Liu calls for him and says he would like to make a small sandwich. Politely, he declines and says he needs to go back home because his relatives are waiting for him. He runs out and says he will see the manager soon. This behavior of Tang makes the manager question and wonder why the MC does this when invited. Behind the manager was a beautiful lady who wonders if that person who ran away is Tang Feng. At home, Tang in the jacket asks his father and mother if the food is ready. They respond that it will be soon. The girl from before who was asking about Tang Feng appears in front of his house and starts shouting for him. So he goes outside and asks who is looking for him, and she replies that she is there because the manager sent her to talk to our hero. He is completely taken aback by the lady's beauty and somewhat flustered, asks what he can do to help her. Apparently, what the girl is actually looking for is to buy 2 fish from the protagonist, but he must refuse since he has closed a contract. Thus, the girl tries to use a bit of her charm to make Tang Feng change his mind. She even tries to seduce him a little more by whispering simple words in the protagonist's ear about him, refusing to do this small favor. But our hero is a man of his word, so he refuses and says he has a deal closed with the manager and therefore cannot sell. The girl starts to cry and says that Tang Feng is scaring her and asks why he is behaving this way. Wanting to scare her a little more, the MC calls his dog named Iron. Clearly, this has an even greater effect on the girl, who is completely frightened. Crying and panicking, the girl starts shouting for help from her grandfather. Therefore, a person appears in the background, clapping. The girl's grandfather is laughing, saying that our protagonist is a young man with personality and character. But the girl with pink hair doesn't want to hear any of that and asks her grandfather to solve the problem because, besides unleashing the dog on her, the protagonist is a pervert. However, the young man is there only to thank Tang, who introduces himself as Lin Tin, and his granddaughter Lin Mingjia. Knowing that those two didn't come to cause trouble changes things a bit. The protagonist is happy, and the young man thanks him for the business the MC is doing with the manager. However, it doesn't end there, and the old man questions whether the position our MC is in is favorable for him. Not understanding anything Lin Teen is saying, our protagonist asks for a better explanation. That gentleman doesn't want to cause any kind of problem. On the contrary, he wants to invest in the protagonist so that both can make a lot of money. Jaqueta is somewhat satisfied with what the gentleman is saying but remains cautious about it. The reason for being cautious is that he doesn't exactly know what an ecological park mentioned by the gentleman is. Knowing it would take a long time to explain, the old man asks the protagonist to get in the car and informs him that the manager has already prepared everything to show. Then they head to where everything is prepared inside that beautiful limousine. Sukian from Jaqueta is completely perplexed by the capacity the limousine has inside. However, our protagonist starts receiving calls on his cell phone and apologizes to the group, saying he needs to take it. On the phone, we can hear the protagonist's sister talking to him. She is completely in shock and afraid of what is happening. Noticing that the protagonist's expression has changed, Lin Teen asks what is going on. Thus, our protagonist apologizes and says he cannot go with them due to something happening to someone. Having discovered that his friend was unwell, our protagonist headed to the hospital, assisted by the people who previously wanted to invest in him. The old man says that it was nothing and asks that the next time they meet, they finally have that conversation and that nothing interferes. The granddaughter criticizes the protagonist's attitude, thinking he is lying and refusing the 5 million offered to him. However, he doesn't think that way. In fact, he finds the protagonist very cool since he is willing to give up 5 million Rias for his friend. Arriving at the hospital, our protagonist encounters his possible future wife calling him. There, the protagonist's future wife comments that Sang Chaxi ended up getting into a fight and was stabbed in a region near the abdomen. Thus, our protagonist even asks where the young man is, and she herself replies that he is in the emergency room, informing about the cost of the surgery. However, our protagonist has a different line of thought. In fact, in his mind, Sang Chaxi deserves this kind of treatment. He tends to change his mind as he realizes how sad the woman is. So to help the poor girl, he hands over all the money he has and says that unfortunately, he cannot give her more money. But suddenly, someone appears and takes the money from the people's hands. The protagonist doesn't know who it is, however the woman does. She responds that it is Kim Eung-zi. She starts questioning why Kim Eung-zi is doing this to his own brother since that money could save his life. As not everything is perfect, Sang Chaxi's brother, in addition to taking the money, gathered his entire gang to end his brother's life. Besides doing such evil to his brother, the man is even willing to hurt the poor girl who has nothing to do with this. He also warns that he is willing to do anything to have some fun with the woman. However, Feijazino asks him to stop because she doesn't want to be treated like an object. There was no doubt that the protagonist would act, and so he did. He threw a punch at the young man's face. The henchmen are completely shocked because they didn't expect that kind of reaction. Moreover, the punch was so strong that it made Kim Eung-zi stumble back. Quickly after taking the punch, the man wakes up and starts questioning who that person is. Extremely angry to see his future wife in such a delicate situation, our protagonist responds sarcastically, saying he is his father. Obviously, as a good coward, he would ask his henchman to go after the protagonist. A guy with blue hair even charges at the protagonist, trying to do something. But it's useless since he is weak and ends up getting punched by our hero. A blonde extra also thinks he can defeat our protagonist, so he charges in but ends up being used as a punching bag. All the henchmen and even their leader are being used as punching bags. In the hospital, only their screams of pain can be heard. Thus, the former leader and brother of Shangzi kneels before the protagonist and begs for mercy, also informing him that from now on, he is the leader of the gang. 7 people in total are lying on the ground, pleading for mercy, asking to be spared because our hero is extremely strong and they don't want to feel that pain again. Everyone starts to run because that's how it will be. The protagonist will show mercy this time, but warns that there won't be any next time. Beanie starts to cry due to the situation Xangzi is in and the situation he also put her in. Clearly, our protagonist wouldn't let things stay as they are, so wisely he hugs the girl and tries to comfort her. After calming her down, she informs him that she will stay at the hospital to receive news and mentions that if our MC wants to leave, he can do so. Having nothing else to resolve in that city, our protagonist pulls out his phone and says he misses his friend, so he will call him. When he calls, he informs Zhang Mingming that he is in town and would like to see him. In a luxury car, the young man answers and asks what the MC is doing in the city and also invites him for a drink to catch up. But there's a brief situation that prevents the two from meeting today. However, the protagonist proposes to go with this guy to the place he is heading. Zhang Mingming, however, has a different thought. He thinks the protagonist is trying to act tough with him. Still, the thought remains. He says he will fulfill the protagonist's wishes today. Going to meet his friend, our MC passes through the city and is dazzled by the appearance of the buildings and houses. However, amidst the chaos of traffic and honking horns, he realizes this was also expected. Not only is he astonished by this, but also by the women who inhabit the big city. But while he was looking around, someone puts their hand in front of his eyes. The person who blocked his view is a local guard who warns about the prohibition of carrying unidentified liquids by the regulatory authorities. However, our hero knows that the vial contains something that will make him feel unwell. But the guard warns that if he doesn't use the vial, he won't be able to walk freely. When he heard the word fine, he had no choice but to use the vial. After the guard lets him walk around the city, Sukun Tang heads to where his friend is waiting. Inside, the young man is impressed by the number of beautiful cars. On one side, people pop confetti after his entrance, but it doesn't stop there, as another person also pops confetti and congratulates him. He can't understand what is happening and why people are giving him flowers and taking pictures of him. Then a waitress appears and explains that the reason for the celebration is that the MC is the 99,999th customer. It doesn't stop there, as he also won a luxury SUV from Mercedes itself. She also informs him that if he wants to pick up the car today, he can, and asks what color he would like. What he didn't expect is that his luck only came because of the vial he had drunk earlier. While he was thinking about the things happening to him, his friend appears at the location. The man is also in his luxury car. They both start talking about whether their lives are going well or not. Our Jaquetina doesn't waste time and asks about the value of the car his friend owns, and he responds that the value is around 400,000. Playing the wise mechanic, the hero asks to take a look at the problem the car has. Inside the car, the guy comments on how comfortable it is, but his friend doesn't like that and asks him to be careful since the things the car has are still original and legitimate. Thus, not wanting to be underestimated, the protagonist says he also has a cool car. However, Zhang Mingmi doesn't believe it and starts mocking him, asking him to stop joking about it. Then the MC points to his car and asks him to take a closer look. There's the protagonist's car, a Mercedes G65. The friend is completely shocked and incredulous about the car that the hero owns and questions if it really belongs to him. In turn, the boy replies that yes, it is his. It was unexpected, but the protagonist's friend drops to his knees and starts calling for Tang. He comments that he didn't know our Jaquetina had made so much money. He warns that if the protagonist needs help, he can call him immediately. Since that's the case, Tang Feng informs that he only came to find his friend because he needs a favor. The favor that the MC needs is to find someone because this person has fled to the big city. He informs that the person he is looking for is his ex-brother-in-law. The protagonist's friend says it's no problem since the information provided will be enough to find who the MC wants. Then he starts talking on the phone. Meanwhile, our protagonist thinks about how long it will take to find who he desires and notices something different. The protagonist's cell phone congratulates him for achieving a milestone called Do Good Deeds. The reward is merit points. Our hero doesn't know what he did to receive such a good reward. Therefore, he picks up his phone again and contacts Fijiao Xinho. The woman is lying next to her ex-husband or still husband. Then he receives the answer he didn't want to know. The boy Suwang Shangsai has secured his surgery and asks if this is a good thing for Fijiao Xinho. A few minutes later, the protagonist's friend appears and says he has good news for him. He informs that he managed to find his brother-in-law and they are ready to go after him. Changing the scene, we are now in a casino. The protagonist is completely perplexed because he didn't expect a casino to be like that and even makes jokes about the place. A woman appears and asks what the protagonist's friend is doing there. Apparently, that man is completely in love with the woman because his reaction changes drastically. He then replies that he just brought his childhood friend to meet her and introduces him as Tang Feng. He also introduces Sister Jin, the owner of the Hero Club. The hero then asks if his brother-in-law named Ji Hongshang is there and if she could call him. The woman says she is also looking for that guy, not just him, but also the family. Her demeanor changes drastically because the boy owes her over 400,000 riyas in debts and asks the protagonist to pay her. Tang Feng becomes furious because he doesn't understand how Lin Hongshang has so much money to gamble like that. The woman responds that this is the amount to have him. The protagonist is in a dead end because he doesn't have that much money to pay the woman, but knowing he can't leave the situation as it is because of his sister, who won't be able to live without her husband and his daughter without a father, he has no choice but to think of a plan suitable for the situation. Thus, he offers his brand new 3 million Mercedes as a form of payment in a bet he will make with the girl. He explains that he will play against her and that if he wins, he will win all the money that his brother-in-law owes. The woman finds all of this interesting. The MC's friend even tries to warn him, saying that this is their territory and they can manipulate everything necessary to win. But he replies that he is confident in his luck because he knows that all of this is just gambling. The two sit at a betting table. However, more people appear at the location. With that, the girl proposes a very simple game called Guess If It's Big or Small, and the dice will add up the faces that are smaller or larger than 10. The MC agrees, saying that it sounds great to him. The woman then takes a cup and starts shaking all the dice inside it. Then she asks the question, is it big or small? Our MC responds that it is small. Thus, the woman takes the dice out of the cup and shows that the result was big. Our MC can't believe it. In his thoughts, he tries to understand how this kind of thing is possible. After winning our protagonist, the woman then mockingly starts to tease him. The protagonist doesn't hold back and says that the woman manipulated the dice since it was her who was rolling them from the beginning, not him. The woman responds by saying that despite the protagonist being so young, he is very suspicious about things and asks what he wants to do then. Thus, he proposes that his friend roll the dice from the beginning. His friend doesn't know what to do because he is afraid the protagonist will lose, but all the protagonist wants is for him to roll the dice without cheating. To find out if the woman is cheating or not, our protagonist takes her phone and says he will talk to one of the immortal gods to find out about it. However, the security guard appears and says that it is forbidden to use the phone while at the table. Thus, there is no choice but to wait for him to take the flask and drink again. The main character makes up an excuse, saying that the flask contains only water to drink. The woman asks the security guard to stop interfering because they are taking too long with this. Her only solution was to drink that luck potion to remove the curse she has been carrying. After all, he made it this far and will do everything to win. The protagonist pours all the liquid from the flask into himself. The protagonist's friend is completely lost about what to do but still says he will do it. From the beginning, the woman was interfering because she has X-ray vision, but still claims that nothing will change for her. With her X-ray vision, she looks inside the cup and sees that the exact number is small. But the protagonist is quicker and responds that the number inside the cup is small. The woman already notices something different because the protagonist managed to call out first. Well, as we suspected, besides her cheating with her X-ray vision, there is a mechanism under the table that allows her to choose the numbers. The protagonist's friend then removes the cup from the dice, and the numbers contained are 4, 1, 3, indeed small. The protagonist then praises his friend, saying he is doing a great job. Meanwhile, the poor woman is furious because she doesn't know what is happening with the mechanism, and our MC proposes another type of game now. The new game that the protagonist proposed is that in every round he will say that the number under the dice is small. Again, the protagonist's friend rolls the dice, and this time the woman says that the numbers under the cup are large. More and more, she responds that the number under the cup is large. However, she ends up getting it wrong all 3 times. Once again, she gets it wrong, saying that the number contained is large. The woman is completely perplexed and in shock because she doesn't know what is happening and asks how the protagonist can guess the number so many times. Our protagonist, now confident, asks if the lady wants to continue playing because he knows she will lose again and again. She cannot believe the results she is getting, so she takes the cup from the protagonist's friend's hand and asks to let her roll the dice. She shakes and shakes sensually, saying she cannot believe all of this. A loud noise echoes through the betting hall. The result again breaks the woman's spirit because the numbers are small. Mocking the poor woman even more, our protagonist asks his butlers to serve her a cup of cappuccino to help her relax. With no other choice, the woman starts accusing the protagonist of cheating, not that it is a lie. Thus, she orders all her henchmen to hold the protagonist and tie him up for her. There are no more options left for our MC now. The protagonist's friend is scared, thinking something might happen. And out of nowhere, someone throws cards towards the lady's henchmen. Some cards graze by, while others hit the suited henchman. The cards keep being fired, all aimed at the security guards the lady has. However, the lady pulls out a knife and charges at the protagonist, wanting to hurt him. She appears behind the protagonist, screaming for him to die, but the protagonist in turn shows no reaction. On the contrary, he was already expecting this kind of behavior, so he just waited for the lady to attack, catching the object with the tips of his fingers. The protagonist warns the lady that she is going too far. However, she responds that the protagonist interfered, but he comments that he was playing in her territory, and in her games, there is no cheating in that. But the protagonist, besides breaking the facade the woman had, also comments on the cheating she had been using, citing the fan and the table as examples. He then throws the sharp object away and questions whether this type of game shouldn't be about luck or misfortune. The lady, realizing her mask has fallen, becomes afraid of what might happen. However, she tries to disguise it by saying that she likes the protagonist more and more every time he opens his mouth. There are no more choices left for her. All that is left is to show the protagonist where her brother-in-law is. Inside a room, his brother-in-law was in the corner like a child being punished by their parents. Upon hearing that people were approaching quickly, the young man begins to scream, asking them not to hit him anymore. He kneels and pleads for them to please stop. However, no one is touching him. The MC is just standing in front of him. Seeing the deplorable situation his brother-in-law is in, our MC informs him that there is no one else there besides him. Thus, the little tiger begins to ask why the small Tang is there, and if he is there to save him from this misfortune. But apparently, the protagonist does not seem to be there to save him, ironically asking, "Save you from what?" Our MC starts to criticize his behavior, saying that the young man is making his sister and niece live a miserable and wretched life. However, like a good fool and gambler, the young man comments that at first, he had won a lot of money. He continues by saying that he just wanted to provide a comfortable life for his wife and daughter, and that at first he only wanted to recover the money he had lost. In a tone of mercy, our protagonist asks the young man to get up but knows that there are also reasons for wretched people to be treated this way. Now standing, the young man questions how his brother-in-law managed to get into that place. The MC replies that he had to pay the debt that he made. Seeing that he doesn't need to pay anymore, someone celebrates, asking if it's serious, in addition to praising our protagonist. But like a good useless person destined for failure, the young man does not stop his behavior. On the contrary, he starts asking for money again to bet on the little tiger. These words echo in the protagonist's head, making him extremely angry with that useless person. In a different location, two people are conversing in a not-so-friendly manner. Apparently, those two people are police officers. One is questioning how there can be so many screams in the interrogation room. The other replies that he doesn't have a crystal ball to know. Frightened, the young men shout, "Who is the crazy person invading the police station? Come out with your hands up." But what they didn't expect was that a person would be inside, completely gagged. Our protagonist is the one behind this lamentable scene in a police station. He is marveling at a possible gift from the gods called a wall perforator. The reason the protagonist did this act with his brother-in-law is the hope that the law will protect him from the people who want to hunt him down. However, the protagonist's phone starts ringing, and he picks it up to look. The message was from the evil god, the same one who wants his lucky bottle back. Our foolish hero had forgotten the deadline that the young man had set for him to return it. After the message from the evil immortal god asking the protagonist to return his bottle with the luck potion, the protagonist informs him that he had forgotten. However, he makes up an excuse, saying that he had filled the bottle as he said he would, but ended up needing to use it. The only thing we can hear is a huge scream coming from the evil god, questioning why he used everything. But still angry, the evil god comments that he had prepared that bottle to give as a gift to a fairy he knows, and this was necessary for tomorrow because it is her birthday. Then the immortal begins to conjure a type of magic. All of this is happening because the protagonist did not warn him beforehand, and they comment that he is being irrational. And then, when the protagonist least expected it, a cloud of bad luck begins to appear in the place where he is. The immortal speaks again, saying that this bad luck will last for the protagonist's next life. With that, the hero tries to run, calling the evil god cruel. Thus, he even comments that the protagonist can run as much as he wants, but that bad luck will follow him to the ends of life. Unfortunately, the protagonist ended up running into a dead end. The evil god starts shouting for the protagonist to accept his fate. In his thoughts, he tries to come up with a plan to escape that situation. His plan consists of removing the stopper from the luck bottle and storing the smoke inside. Still not knowing what could happen, this is the best option, and apparently his plan worked. Finally, he managed to escape that situation. Now he just needs to close the bottle so that nothing leaks. However, he is standing still, thinking about something. Not only him, but also the evil god, who no longer knows what to do since his plan went wrong. The fool had forgotten that the luck bottle was still with the MC, so he throws words to the wind about being unlucky. All he wanted was to get a favor from the fairy Leoli. However, the protagonist does not know the value that gift holds for the young man, so in his thoughts, he calls the poor guy a fool. Jinx couldn't stop crying when he received a message from the protagonist talking about the name given to this type of behavior from where the MC comes from. Our hero then starts shouting at the cosplay of Koreos, saying that this behavior is typical of petty people. The protagonist's words turn into flames on the other side, making Jinx even more scared. Our MC proposes a deal between the two, saying that Jinx doesn't need to worry about what to give Leoli, but rather about himself. He continues by saying that just looking at the WhatsApp profile picture shows that the guy has no sense of fashion. With that, the young man starts receiving clothes as gifts from the protagonist, a cool jacket and a nice watch. That was all he had received so far. Finally, Jinx dropped the Koreos cosplay and started cosplaying as important people from the human world. Additionally, the protagonist comments, "Don't worry about the gift because I have something in mind to give you." As a gift, our MC gave him an iPhone 16 Pro Max along with brand new, original AirPods. This time, the immortal of bad luck is happy and asks how he can repay the protagonist for his actions. Thus, our hero takes the vial and asks to exchange it for luck. This is not all he will receive, as Jinx will teach him how to control the power. Our protagonist is shocked by his ability, as he can now control another type of power. Suddenly, in his thoughts, the protagonist begins to think that what he learned now is considered magic. The next day, our protagonist is walking with his friend to a luxury resort. He thanks him, but the protagonist says it's unnecessary since his friend did him a great favor. Tang is amazed by the luxury that the resort has and mentions that he has never had the opportunity to see such things closely. However, while the protagonist was admiring the resort, a woman appears and comments that the kitchen is on the other side and asks him to follow the rules. In response, our protagonist says he is not there to make deliveries but to eat, using his own ingredients for that. For her part, the woman shows no expression but ironically questions, "What do you mean, your ingredients?" The woman's appearance is extremely extravagant. She comments that this resort does not allow people to bring food from outside. The two still try to enter the hall but are stopped by the same woman from before. Tang questions why she can't simply have good manners, but his friend asks him not to waste words on that lady. However, the young man does the opposite of what he said. He goes over and starts confronting the lady. In fact, he just wanted to get closer to admire the woman's beauty since they are both quite impressive. Thus, our hero comments that she forced him to do all that while pulling out the vial of bad luck. The guys were trying to resolve the issue with the annoying woman, but in the background, someone appears shouting for them to move on without hesitation. The people shouting were a young man with purple hair and the prettiest granddaughter who wanted to invest in the protagonist. The behavior of the bystanders changes upon seeing that the young man with purple hair is Zheng Longcheng, the son of the King and Long dynasty. Quickly, our MC and his friend become bystanders, being pushed to the side so that the woman can treat her new guest well. But this makes the protagonist and his friend furious as they are being treated like trash. The old man's granddaughter already notices that Tang Feng is also in that place. She pretends to be surprised and happy to find Tang Feng. The son of the Tai Long dynasty gets angry, thinking he is being cheated on. The woman says that Tang Feng is just her friend and asks for respect for him. However, the suave one doesn't believe it and asks what her boyfriend must think. But the woman replies that he is nothing to her, just an envious person. This kind of thing, however, does not concern the protagonist as he already has a problem with the security that is not letting him enter the restaurant. The purple-haired guy responds that no one called the protagonist to the conversation and asks him to stay away from his beloved. Since the protagonist is angry for not being able to enter the restaurant, he says that the one who should stay away from the girl is him. The well-dressed guy then puts his hand on the protagonist's collar because he is angry. He continues asking the protagonist to repeat if he has the courage, saying, "Repeat, repeat." The security of the place asks the two not to start a fight there while the pink-haired girl warns about calling the young man's grandfather. The boy then sighs, having to accept that he cannot let Grandpa Zen see that kind of thing. Moreover, he also throws the protagonist away, calling him a beggar and asking the girl if she really likes him. Suddenly, the girl runs to the protagonist's side and takes him in her arms. It doesn't end there, as she says that she really likes the protagonist and is in love with him. She also makes it clear that she prefers to date a beggar like the protagonist rather than a jerk like the boy with purple hair. This activates the power called mild within the slick guy, who then charges at the MC. He then throws a punch at our hero. In a tone of superiority, he calls the protagonist trash but doesn't know what is coming. The girl with pink hair becomes worried, but gradually our protagonist gets back up, and the same girl runs to the MC, asking if the slick guy is crazy. This time, she genuinely cares and says that Zheng Longqing is causing problems again, asking him to resolve the issues. The slick guy then, with an air of superiority, says he will let the protagonist escape this time because the old man is coming to meet him. He then says goodbye, asking the protagonist to be careful because sooner or later they will meet again. The three of them, sitting at a table, talk about what just happened. The girl with pink hair apologizes for the incident. The MC replies that it's all right but wants to know why she is dating such an arrogant person. She then gives an explanation, saying that the slick guy is afraid of her grandfather because he is the founder of important companies for the country. The protagonist's friend is indignant that his best friend had to go through that and asks why he didn't use his powers. Then the MC responds to his friend, saying that in such situations, one should not exaggerate because the boy, despite being arrogant, is known to important people to him. However, in his thoughts, this changes because the protagonist was about to deal with that slick guy. The chef announces the arrival of the order. That dish consists of a large, delicious crab surrounded by equally appetizing salads. It doesn't end there, as the other dish is an extremely delicious shrimp. The people are completely perplexed by the appearance of the shrimp, and the hungry girl is the first to take a bite. It is a freshness that is as pleasant as it is suffocating. The protagonist's friend also feels the same things as the girl. Then the protagonist comments that all of this is just an exaggeration on their part. The girl takes the opportunity to talk to the protagonist about the investment in the ecological park. Our MC says that everything is fine with the contract and that next time he will be there to sign it without any problems. As all good things come to an end, the three say goodbye. Tang's friend warns that if he needs anything, he just has to call him. For her part, the girl tells him not to forget to sign the contract. Inside the car, he tells everyone not to worry and informs them that he is going home. There he is, driving at high speed through the mountains. While driving, he hears a strange song. Our hero, still at the wheel, notices something ahead of him. Upon identifying what it is, he tries to accelerate the car even more. However, he ends up being hit by something that resembles a tank. The impact makes his car spin completely, resembling a Beyblade. The poor car is totally destroyed with the protagonist inside, unaware of what is to come. Unfortunately, the car starts leaking oil, which could cause a huge flame in the area and lead to the deforestation of the surrounding trees. The person who collided with the protagonist's car gets out of the vehicle. The one who hit the car was the boy with purple hair. He gets out, saying that this is to teach the protagonist not to mess with him or his woman. However, our protagonist is fine, so he slowly exits the vehicle. As he puts half of his body out, he asks the boy with purple hair if he is trying to kill him. The boy, in a tone of irony, comments that the protagonist's life is hard. Then, pulling out his big gun, he says that it doesn't matter anymore since he will have another end for him. He also comments that it will be more satisfying to unalive the protagonist with his own hands. But in his thoughts, the hero comments that the boy is completely arrogant and that he had already prepared for all of this given his history. Our MC tries to buy time using his flask. He comments that if the boy pulls the trigger, maybe the gun won't work and will backfire. This further infuriates the envious one, who comments that even in the face of soul harvesting, the protagonist does not give up and will thus fulfill his desire. The young man shoots. However, something strange happens with the gun. The bullet grazes the protagonist but does not hit him. In fact, the bullet ends up hitting the protagonist's car and ricochets away. It doesn't end there, as it ricochets again off the envious young man's own car. The bullet finally hits its target. The envious one's shoulder is struck. He wonders how that happened. The sound of the gunshot can be heard by the local neighborhood. Even injured, the envious one says that this will not stop him from killing the protagonist. Then he shoots again, but this time the gun explodes in his hand. Fallen to the ground, the young man tries to understand how this was possible. The MC walks calmly, saying that he had warned him not to do that. Then he takes out the potion again and comments that this version is even stronger than the previous one. Some time has passed since the envious one tried to kill the protagonist, and now he tries to enjoy the peace that has been given to him. However, while doing this, his dog notices something and starts barking furiously. Outside, there is a large excavator ready to likely destroy the protagonist's residence. Seeing this, he thinks that the village might be undergoing construction for a new building, but he has no idea what is to come. The workers start by destroying his gate. Noticing this, the protagonist becomes furious and asks what they think they are doing. His sister appears and asks if everything is okay. The MC replies that it is not, and that he will confront the guys to understand what is happening. Underneath the excavator, our hero asks what the young man is doing. Then with irony, the young man replies, "What do you think we are doing? We are destroying a house." The protagonist completely loses his composure and responds by saying that this is his house, asking who ordered the demolition. Obviously, it was the envious young Longcheng who replies, "I ordered it to be destroyed." Apparently, the young man did not learn his lesson last time and will have to learn it now. Before doing anything, the protagonist asks how he was able to find his house. The young man says it wasn't that hard. He adds that the reason he is a psychopath is Tang Feng's fault, and for that, he will be left homeless. The spoiled young man asks the construction crew to build him a large tennis court and a giant swimming pool. This time he has crossed the line and has no idea what is about to happen to him. The MC asks if his mental health is intact because this kind of thing is unacceptable. Zheng Longcheng then pulls out a contract from his jacket, proving that the protagonist's house was sold to him. The protagonist's parents appear outside, asking if they are really going to demolish the house. The MC's father throws himself on the ground and says that if they want to destroy his house, they will have to go over his body. The spoiled young man mocks, saying that the protagonist's father is pathetic, and he warns the MC that since his father wishes to be unliving so much, so be it. He tells the driver to destroy the house without caring who is in front. However, the driver is aware of his actions and says that if someone dies there, bigger problems may arise. Zheng Longcheng gets angry at the employee's attitude, forcibly pulling him out of the excavator, making it clear that he does not care who dies. He is willing to kill anyone in his way. While the protagonist's family is distracted, the young man takes the opportunity to drive the vehicle straight at them. They realize that he really does not care about anyone's life. Since that is the case, the protagonist decides to use his powers to combat evil. Our MC activates his super strength to stop the vehicle. On one side, we have the protagonist with his powers. On the other, a vehicle as heady as an elephant. But the one at the wheel does not want to fall behind and starts to accelerate even more, trying to reach his goal. Our hero, however, does not seem worried at all. On the contrary, he comments on how terrible Zheng Longcheng is. Zheng Longcheng wonders how the protagonist can be so strong. But it doesn't end there. He will try again. Seeing that there is no way to pass with brute force, he decides to use the crane to hit a member of the protagonist's family. The one who will be hit is the MC's mother. The poor woman will not be able to react in time. Our MC would not be able to save his mother in time from a tragic end. That is what everyone thought, but his dog acted faster. With that speed, the dog managed to knock the protagonist's mother to the ground, but he would probably be hit hard. Unfortunately, the dog was struck, suffering significant damage. The impact was strong, and the pain must have been even greater since the dog was thrown far away. The protagonist's mother and the protagonist himself run to the dog to see if he is okay. The entire family of the protagonist is in an uproar upon seeing that their little dog sacrificed himself to save a family member. Our MC prepares to deliver the sad news. Crying over his dog, he comments that unfortunately, the poor thing will play like the number 10 for Vasco. His sister and niece begin to cry in despair. Getting down from the tractor, the cowardly man says that a dog dared to stand against him, and that's why it met this fate. The protagonist then stands up and, in a furious tone, warns that that dog was more important than any person because it was raised by his family since it was little. Our protagonist runs to attack the cowardly, envious man. Like a good coward, he asks his subordinates to advance and attack the protagonist to protect him. But it will be of no use, as the protagonist will use all his powers and means to carry out his revenge. A single punch is enough to knock down 2 of the extras. However, one of the extras was clever and appears behind the protagonist. What he didn't count on was that the protagonist was already expecting this kind of situation and is completely calm and relaxed because he knows he will win the fight in the end. Then the extra, who thought he was clever, ends up getting hit with a kick to the chin. Zhen Longcheng, seeing that his end will be tragic, tries to flee the scene. He climbs onto the tractor, and the MC asks where he thinks he is going. Be a man and fight like one. He starts pressing all the buttons on the tractor in the hope that something will happen. Thus, he directs the excavator towards the protagonist. The protagonist is down there, ready to be hit. From inside the tractor, the cowardly man shouts for Tang Feng to be unmade. Unfortunately, the young man's plan works because our protagonist is hit directly by the excavator. That impact probably hurt because the MC is spitting ketchup. His sister and niece scream in despair for him. Their lives are hero, fallen to the ground, covered in ketchup. The coward thinks he has won and celebrates with relief, but it doesn't end there. He says that this was the fate awaited for Tang Feng and that this is what he gets for showing off. It doesn't matter how strong he is. The MC's family runs close, trying to see if he is still alive. However, in the astral background, he sees his family crying and wonders what is happening. He soon realizes that he is probably unmade. Someone in the background confirms the protagonist's hypothesis and asks him to follow. This person starts laughing while showing their sharp fangs. The person communicating with the MC in the astral plane is known as the God of Soul Harvest. But in his thoughts, our protagonist is not happy at all because he is only 22 years old and hasn't even managed to date or achieve his goals. So he tries to bluff with the God of Soul Harvest, saying that he was waiting for him. After making fun of the God of Soul Harvest, he asks the protagonist to follow him to the underworld because his life will finally end in the worst way possible. The protagonist replies that in fact, the one who is audacious is the God of unmaking himself. In turn, that immortal being is left confused and questions our hero. Thus, the protagonist comments that he is not an ordinary mortal, but a primordial Talist. Our MC mentions that the God of Wealth and the God of the Moon are his closest friends, in addition to also knowing Sabian. Despite being informed about friendships with important figures, the God of Soul Harvest does not want to know. To convince him, the MC pulls out a gift he received from the immortal God and throws it so that he can see with his own eyes that he is not an ordinary mortal. After checking, the god agrees that the protagonist indeed has important friends. However, he still suspects and says that he might be a charlatan. For this reason, he rushes to attack him using his chains. Our protagonist is confident in his abilities and remains still to see what happens. The God of Soul Harvest goes straight through the protagonist without causing any damage. He tries to attack again, and once more, he fails. His goal is to grab the protagonist's soul to take it to the underworld. Then, in a mocking tone, the MC challenges the God of Soul Harvest to catch him. The god begins to realize that the protagonist is indeed telling the truth about not being an ordinary mortal. The protagonist responds that everything the immortal god says is nonsense. Finally understanding that the protagonist was telling the truth, the immortal god apologizes and says he is just an employee. The protagonist comments that it's alright because now they are friends and shouldn't worry about it. With that, he pulls out his phone and says he wants to add him to his contacts, but the god doesn't understand. A little closer, the protagonist asks him to stay still for a moment because he will find a way to add him. Not knowing what it's about, the god asks him to move away that demonic mirror. The protagonist tries to explain that it is not a demonic mirror but a phone from the human world. Understanding, the soul harvesting god says he will leave since there is nothing more to resolve, but the hero asks him to wait and requests the life of his dog again. The soul harvesting god asks if he is talking about an orange bulldog and says he took the puppy to the underworld. The protagonist gets angry because that was his friend, and he didn't want that to happen. He demands that the god return his soul, but the god explains that 1 day in heaven is equivalent to 1 year on earth, and the same applies to the underworld. Moreover, the dog belongs to King Yama. Therefore, it would be a grave offense to bring him back to the mortal world. The protagonist says he doesn't care if his dog has become a hellhound, he just wants him back. The god warns that it is not that simple because he is not the only one responsible for the underworld. So, with no other choices, the protagonist takes his phone to send a message. He pulls pamphlets out of his pocket and starts hitting the soul-harvesting god, saying he will have to pull some strings. The young man is confused. Moreover, he tries to understand why he is feeling embarrassed. Those pamphlets were actually money. The protagonist grabs the phone again and says that all that money is not enough. With that, he starts giving even more money to the soul-harvesting god. The young man tells the protagonist that what he is doing is an unacceptable mistake in front of the immortal gods. Trying to bargain, the MC comments on how the young man has spent so much time capturing souls that he can't even have fun, and wonders, why not send that soul-harvesting god to another house? Suddenly, they appear in a gigantic mansion. The protagonist also offers a luxury car. A Lamborghini Aventador is offered to the soul-harvesting god, but he refuses. The gifts continue. This time a luxury watch, then a pair of Marco Jordan sneakers. The protagonist, with something in mind, asks Xiao Hai if living alone in such a big house is lonely, and so he will arrange for 2 extremely attractive secretaries for him. One of the girls, dressed in a yellow blouse, approaches and asks if Xiao Hai likes them. The other, with pink hair, comes closer, telling him to just agree because they want to be with him forever. There are no more choices for the poor immortal. He has already made up his mind. He then informs that he has disappointed the protagonist and will return to the underworld to fetch his dog's soul. With his entry into the underworld, a small portal appears in the human world. The girls next to the protagonist wish him good luck and say they are waiting for him. As expected, says the protagonist, money even makes the devil change his mind. For some reason, he comments that his father works in the funeral business. In reality, everything he showed the god was a lie. He just needed to add him on social media. In his thoughts, he is happy because he believes it was all worth it to get his dog's soul. Suddenly, the soul-harvesting god appears, saying he brought his friend's soul back. The protagonist is startled, and warns the foolish man not to do such things without warning because he almost had a heart attack. The soul-harvesting god pulls the chains with the puppy's soul. Before, it was a normal dog, but now it has turned into a monster. Its sharp teeth are enormous. Not only that, its height has quadrupled, maybe even quintupled. The soul-harvesting god and the protagonist are shocked by the dog's appearance. Despite everything, that is still his dog, and the MC starts to tear up with happiness. However, the dog does not seem happy as it begins to emit fierce sounds. They ask the hellhound to calm down, but obviously that doesn't happen. The dog raises its giant paw towards the two. The MC jokingly asks if the young man is not too old to worry about this, and the other replies that it is not the time for jokes. Then the protagonist opens his arms and asks his dog to come to him. But he does not obey. The impact of the paw causes extreme fear. Moreover, he brings his grumpy face closer to the crushed people. An explosion occurs at the site, but it was not a common explosion, it was one of cuteness, for his dog finally found his owner. They take the opportunity to cuddle. The protagonist is happy to see him again. The protagonist, petting his dog, asks Xiao Hai to pet him too, but he refuses, terrified by what is happening. Thus, the god of soul harvests, wanting to take advantage of the girls, warns that he will return to the underworld because it is getting late and tells the protagonist to do the same. Tang agrees. Moreover, he needs to go back to settle scores with the meek cuckold. Finally, we return to that scene where the protagonist is completely lifeless. The cuckold celebrates, saying that Tang Feng got what he deserved, which is why he is lifeless. His father runs towards Zheng Longking, saying that his son did not deserve that. Then, a sycophant of the boss appears holding a piece of wood, saying that the old man was looking for that. However, it is our protagonist who stands up. He runs towards his father to save him first and ends up landing a punch that sends the cuckold's sycophant flying far away. His father is surprised to see that Tang Feng has returned safe and sound. The protagonist, for his part, does not want to talk and looks directly at his target. Showing the middle finger, he warns that he has come back from hell to take Zheng Longking's soul and send it there. Zheng Longking, in turn, is also scared because he cannot understand how the protagonist came back to life. The protagonist warns that he really died. However, what truly died was his old self, the shy one who tolerated certain behaviors. Our protagonist is extremely angry and warns that he can no longer delude himself with people, hoping they will become good someday. Then, seeing that his worst nightmare has come back to life, Zheng Longking grabs the tractor and charges at the protagonist again. He screams that this time the protagonist will die for real. However, who appears next to the MC is his dog, now known as the Hell Dog. Zheng Longking wonders what kind of monster that is. His niece, scared, approaches and asks what that is. Therefore, the MC tells her not to be afraid since he is not the only one who resurrected. The protagonist explains that the monster is actually his old puppy. Inside the tractor, Zheng Longking is in a panic, trying everything to get out of there. But nothing will help, as with a single leap, the dog manages to stop the vehicle. Zheng Longking starts to wet himself inside, saying he cannot die because he is too important for that. Then he begs the dog to stop playing around and finish it quickly, as even in the end, Zheng Longking tries to maintain superiority. Thus, the dog opens its mouth towards Zheng Longking, ready to devour him completely. Finally, the meat cuckold will get what he deserves. Outside, the only thing people can hear is the sound of chewing. We are now in a completely different place. We thought Zheng Longking was deceased, however, for some reason, the protagonist left him alive. An old man with glasses asks how he ended up like that. That person is Elder Zheng, founder of Tianlong International. The security guard informs that all the boys who were with Zheng Longking at that moment also went crazy. With that, the elder asks if they investigated who did that to the young master. He comments that when he finds out who did this, he will rip that person's head off with his own hands. After the protagonist dealt with the meat cuckold, he is face to face with his dog, admiring the work he did. However, there is a problem. The dog is too big and draws the attention of the people around, so they think of a plan to resolve the situation. The dog apparently understands the problem and barks in response. Automatically after the bark, he begins to shrink in size. The protagonist is happy to see that his dog can use transformation magic. He then asks his sister to go to the bus stop and make a reservation for a ticket to the city the next day since his car broke down. But the dog has a better plan for the MC. Apparently, he transformed or will transform into a car. It is a somewhat different appearance for a car. Due to his transformation ability, the dog turns into a car resembling the one the protagonist had, but with a punk aesthetic. The protagonist becomes even more excited and tells the dog that he will count on his help the next day. His destination is the local headquarters where the investment in the park will be discussed. Upon greeting the protagonist, he says that this time he didn't stand him up. Our hero replies that the fact he didn't show up before doesn't mean he stood him up, but rather that he was busy. The MC comments that he would like to see Mingjie but discovers that she will not be present. They enter the room, but the MC doesn't seem very happy with what he sees. The other investor is the founder of Tianlong International, the same one who wants to kill him. The old investment guy introduces Tang Feng as the boy of great potential he had mentioned. Meanwhile, the MC tries to understand in his thoughts if this is just a coincidence. The two then greet each other. The elder comments that Ling has already spoken a lot about the protagonist. Thus, they prepare to sit down and discuss the initial agreement. Ling tells the old man Zhang that he doesn't need to explain much since the Eco Park project will bring many returns in the future. He warns the protagonist that Zhang's company is very well known in the province and has unlimited funds. The MC takes his phone out of his pocket and says it is an honor to meet Elder Zhang in person. Moreover, he asks if he can add him as a friend, but the man doesn't seem to like that. In his thoughts, Elder Zhang concludes that the boy seems to be very favored by Ling Tian and that he shouldn't create trouble for now. Putting their differences aside, Elder Zhang comments that he will invest only 10 million initially, but he wants to be the majority investor and make all the decisions for the project. This surprises the Elder Ling, who didn't expect this kind of proposal. Thus, he comments that Zhang is being very greedy and questions why he wants final control of the project. He then proposes that if Zhang wants control, he should invest 20 million, but Ling himself will remain in charge of the decisions. The discussion between the two heats up, and in his thoughts, Zhang believes that Ling just wants to waste 20 million. The protagonist, annoyed by the argument, bangs on the table and asks them to stop. He warns that with so much discussion and so little money at stake, it's better for him to handle the project alone since he is capable of doing so. This completely shocks the two old men who were arguing over who would invest more. Thus, Elder Zhang slams the table in anger at the protagonist's audacity. He comments that the new generation is arrogant, and this could lead to their own destruction. But the protagonist has already understood the elder's intentions just by observing his behavior. The old man's plan is to control the protagonist's technology and then expel him from the project, making him lose all credibility. Thus, our MC warns that if they really want to invest, the initial contribution will be 100 million, and the final control will remain with him. Still in the office, the old men call the protagonist greedy but admit that he shows an uncommon dedication for someone so young. Thus, the elder asks what he would do in the case of losses. The protagonist replies that this is impossible. There will be no losses under his management. With that, the elder gets angry at such arrogance. Even so, he asks if he can understand this attitude as a bet between them. But what the protagonist wanted to avoid was precisely giving that kind of understanding. Old Lin then asks Elder Zhang to be patient. After all, the boy is still a teenager and doesn't understand such large businesses. Jem, pulling out a cigar, comments that if in 1 quarter the protagonist doesn't present a return of 300%, something bad will happen. He explains that in that case, the shares will be redistributed and the protagonist will be expelled from the project. Old Lin opposes, saying that it is very risky since Tang Feng still doesn't know how to manage a company of this size. Even so, Zhang insists and asks if the protagonist has the courage to accept. But in reality, all of that was already part of the protagonist's plan. He wanted to reveal who Zhang really was, To gain control over the situation, the MC pretends to be hungry, realizing that they have been negotiating since morning and it is almost noon. They invite him to lunch while continuing the conversation. Zhang offers a drink to Tang Feng, and the two toast. The protagonist drinks what was served and comments that the taste is quite unique, to which the elder responds that it is his favorite wine. Therefore, the protagonist's goal is to find out if the old men are planning something against him, but so far nothing has been revealed. However, in his thoughts, he shows his plan to get the protagonist drunk to gain an advantage. The protagonist takes out his phone and comments that he will post about that wine since it is the first time he has had something so delicious. Then he writes about the tasting experience on social media. Shortly after, he receives a message from Du Kang, the immortal god of wine. He comments that the wine sent by the protagonist is truly exceptional. While talking to Du Kang, Old Zhang asks why this new generation is glued to their phones. The god of wine replies that he has a universal gourd capable of gathering the best wines in the world. The protagonist agrees with him and hopes everyone there will be satisfied. He then calls the elder Zhang for another toast. While the MC drinks on one side, the god of wine savors the same wine on the astral plane. He finishes his glass but licks the cup, wanting more. Everyone at the table is already too intoxicated to continue the conversation. Due to the high alcohol content, they start to struggle to keep up. Old Lin comments that they are drinking too quickly and soon becomes the first to pass out from the alcohol. Elder Zhang, seeing that the protagonist is unharmed, asks if he is good with drinks. The protagonist then pulls out a paper with true information about Zhang's plan to harm him. Zhang, realizing he has been discovered, asks how the protagonist found out. Our MC says that the old man didn't need to go to such lengths and presses the stamp. He takes the hand of the already drunk old man and presses it on the contract. Our hero also comments that he will add a new clause. So after the agreement was made, old Zhang returns to his mansion, and there he is furious, destroying jars that are probably very expensive. He is questioning how a kid like the protagonist managed to humiliate him so greatly. One of his security guards approaches and asks the old man to calm down, and that's when Zhang responds that the park will officially open next week. The old man's plan consists of calling this person and making him rob all the tourists, causing Zhang and Fang to have a bad start. Then we can see how the construction of the building looks extremely extravagant, with people outside preparing to enter. Zhang seems to be a very nice person, as he is confident that the protagonist will do a good job, thus asking him not to disappoint him. He then responds back, saying that the old man doesn't need to worry as he will not disappoint him, and thanks him for the trust. Meanwhile, Elder Zhang appears in the background. However, right at the beginning, someone appears and starts bumping into the large tomatoes, causing problems. The gangster wanted comments that it's all about vegetables there and that it's not a place for meat to taste. Then suddenly, a little blonde guy in a suit appears, calling for the gangster wanted. He continues saying that it's an ecological park and that it doesn't make sense to have meat besides fruits and vegetables. The gangster wannabe doesn't care about that and throws the tomato at him, hitting him. It doesn't end there, as the guy questions who asked him to interfere or explain anything. Grandpa Lin, noticing that someone would cause trouble, was going to call security, but the MC asks him to wait a bit. The expression of the little blonde guy completely changes to a psychopathic look. Thus, this time, the one hit by the tomato is the gangster wannabe. His henchmen rush at him, questioning his audacity to attack their boss. Everyone, without exception, is hit by tomatoes in the face. Additionally, Manji appears at the location, asking for the attention of everyone present. She thanks everyone for coming to the ecological park and comments that to thank their presence, they will provide 20 kilograms of tomatoes for the event that starts today. Upon declaring that the event is officially open, everyone begins to celebrate. All those present start throwing tomatoes at each other in a volleyball style, but with tomatoes. Some are hit in a messy way. The protagonist was already expecting this kind of behavior and thus decided in advance to come up with a plan to handle it if it really happened. Meanwhile, Ling doesn't quite understand what an event about tomatoes means. Our MC responds that due to the pressure that the youth of his generation have been feeling, he decided to create a kind of game so that people could relax. Noticing that this is a very satisfactory plan, he comments that our MC is really smart and that he had judged him wrongly. However, who is not at all satisfied is Elder Zhang, as this ruined one of his plans. Finally, the gangster wannabe wakes up from the tomato attack he took. He wonders what is happening there as he is surrounded by tomatoes and is obviously dirty from tomato juice. That's when he looks to the side and sees something extremely different. The people are having fun on a kind of roller coaster made of tomatoes, and guess who is in the middle? Exactly, the gangster wannabe. While the people played, all that could be heard was the sound of the guy being crushed by the tomatoes. In turn, our hero really enjoyed the event he planned and therefore will likely repeat it in the future. Then the protagonist receives calls on his cell phone and answers. The person he is speaking with is the manager, but due to the noise, he asks to wait a moment. However, something that Tang Feng did not expect this time was that the food inspectors would be present at the ecological park. Things seem to be out of the protagonist's control. Because of this, the food inspectors are already heading towards the entrance of the warehouse. As if he wanted nothing, Zhang appears on the scene and asks why Tang Feng is in such a hurry. The protagonist then comments that people from the Food Safety Administration have shown up there to conduct a small inspection of the warehouse. Thus, the elder asks to accompany the protagonist, as his years of experience may help him with this. Then the MC thanks him and says he will have to bother the old man this time. Arriving at the entrance of the location, one of the inspectors introduces himself, mentions that he came from Jin Province, and asks the MC to cooperate. The security guard of the ecological park appears and informs his boss that he checked the credentials, and they are indeed valid. There is nothing left for the protagonist to do but open the doors of the warehouse. Inside, he asks the staff to do their job. Thus, the gray-haired young man asks his subordinates to start sampling the area. The food employee comments that due to the protagonist's large planting, this will give them a lot of work. He offers a tomato to the young man, asking him to try it. In his thoughts, the young man simply says that the tomato is a common vegetable and therefore responds to the protagonist that they do indeed look good. But it doesn't stop there, as the food safety employee questions that on the map he has, there is an entrance between the warehouse and the planting area. Still, he begins to search and ends up finding a rather strange wall, and meanwhile, the MC asks what the young man is doing. Our hero knows that if the young man removes that fake wall covering, he will be discovered, so the young man pulls the wallpaper. Pulling the wallpaper reveals the entrance to a secret location. Elder Zhang and the security guard are completely at a loss as they did not know about this. The employee then asks the MC to open the door. In his thoughts, our MC knows he cannot let this go any further. Otherwise, his secrets will be exposed. Then the old man takes advantage of the situation to try to help the protagonist, warning that he cannot treat those people that way or they will have bigger problems. Even without the protagonist's permission, the employees decide to open the door. As the door opens slightly, a freezing air begins to escape. Inside the location there are large jars, and we do not know what might be inside. Our protagonist does not seem happy at all to be discovered, but for someone to laugh, another must cry. And therefore the employee seems happy because in his mind he has discovered a gold mine. Thus, the other security guards begin to open the jars and call their boss to take a look at what is inside. However, what we did not expect was that inside the jar there would only be pickles. The main employee seems perplexed to see what those jars contain. They cannot comprehend the fact that all the jars are full of pickles. Meanwhile, our MC chuckles in the background, knowing he will not be caught this time. Again, it doesn't end there, as our hero starts to put on a little show, saying that since the pickles were opened early, they have been contaminated. The three bystanders know that the MC is just putting on a show. Then the MC reminds the employee of the words spoken, and the employee, not knowing what to do, says they will leave the location. Once again, the protagonist managed to completely destroy the elder's plan, who is in shock because he does not know how this happened. The MC knows that this only happened because of Elder Zhang, and holding his cell phone, he thinks to himself that with those fruits and vegetables, he did something else. He used them to sell to the immortal gods. After all the confusion in the park, the god of evil is calling the protagonist in an attempt to have a conversation. He answers and asks if Xiao Sang has sold the entire last batch of products. The god of bad luck then comments that it was as the protagonist had predicted. The people loved the fruits and vegetables he had sent and would like more. However, there is a problem consisting of most of the immortal gods not understanding the concept of money, and therefore are bringing important objects to negotiate. The protagonist knows in his thoughts that this kind of thing is what he wanted because he can receive magical treasures as part of the negotiation. He informs his subordinate that he can send everything he receives to him. Then the subordinate, in turn, responds that it will be done. Thus, automatically after they finish the conversation, Xiao Sang begins to send all the products he has been receiving as part of the negotiation. The protagonist is disappointed because this is not the kind of thing he expected. With that, he starts shouting that all of it is nothing but trash sent by the mortal gods. Xiao Sang, for his part, wants what was promised, so he comments that he has completed all the tasks the protagonist asked for and requests his promised reward. The MC then says he will send it, but he is completely disappointed with the items. Right after their conversation, we head to the immortal palace of glazed glass. Apparently, inside this place is a beautiful lady who is extremely lovely and extravagant. She then starts to twirl, possibly wanting to show her dress to someone. The girl seems to be completely happy with the dress. Thus, our god of evil asks if Liu Lai liked the gift. Liu Li, in turn, responds that she liked the dress, and the god of evil takes the opportunity to invite the girl to take a walk together. However, she makes a face that does not seem to be one of someone who liked or would like to walk with the young man. She accepts but asks the young man to tell her where he got all those clothes and jewelry that were gifted to her. It doesn't stop there, as the girl also knows that the young man has been selling fruits and vegetables from a specific river to the immortal gods. However, the young man responds that he cannot talk about certain things and therefore apologizes. The girl takes the opportunity to use her charm and sweetness to emphasize that if he tells her, she will let him do some things with her. Then a few days pass, and we are in front of another place. Our hero appears, holding his cell phone while resting calmly. While he is watching videos on Instagram, he receives a message from Liu Lai. The protagonist knows who it is and therefore questions why she is sending him a message since his friend likes her. In a perhaps somewhat extravagant position, she greets our hero. In the message she sent, the protagonist comments that she knows about the MC and Zhang Gefang managing a small business in the celestial realm. Obviously, this would make him angry since he asked for nothing to happen. Apparently, the woman's goal is to buy clothes directly from our hero. The MC has character and personality, so he asks the girl to go ask her boyfriend for that kind of product. However, the girl responds that she is not dating the god of bad luck because they are fairies and fairies are not allowed to date. The girl explains that she cannot receive more gifts from her supposed boyfriend because he will be bothering her for a long time, knowing that he cannot do that because he would not be much different from the young man with purple hair. Then the girl throws her current outfit at the protagonist. She explains that that outfit was for personal daily use. Therefore, she questions whether the protagonist would have the courage to let her walk around naked and asks him to think again about what was proposed to her. The MC, as a good man, ends up falling backward with such a proposal. In his thoughts, our hero knows that this is a dirty trick, but he is still almost unable to resist the girl's proposal. Apparently, our hero has no personality at all because he starts to smell the girl's clothes and warns her to leave things with him because he will handle it. This time we head again to another place. However, we are in the palace of the Queen Mother, the goddess of goddesses. There people appear trying to stop someone from doing something. The person in question is the fairy Liu Lai. Apparently, she is entering the Queen Mother's castle. Once inside, she greets the Queen Mother. Upon seeing the fairy Liu Li, the Queen Mother asks what the girl is wearing and how she dares to wear such extravagant clothes. In response to the Queen, the fairy Liu Li comments that this is the latest fashion in the realm of mortals and humans and questions whether the Queen does not know about fashion. Apparently, about 3 young men present are questioning what that means and that they have never heard of it. The Mother of the Gods becomes extremely angry because she thinks the girl is making fun of her. For having angered the Mother of the Heavens, the fairy Liu Lai will have to leave because she is no longer welcome. It doesn't end there, as in her thoughts, the Celestial Queen is angrier than ever. She questions the audacity of the fairy Liu Li for appearing like this at her banquet. The Queen then orders her subordinates to search for the other 7 fairy godmothers and to gather information on where Liu Lai obtained her gifts. While the MC was trying to enjoy his delicious coffee again, he receives a message from another god wanting to add him, and this time it's the Mother Queen. Upon reading the message about who it is, our protagonist automatically gets startled, jumping and dropping his phone. The protagonist is in shock because such an important person added him as a friend. The Celestial Mother comments that she discovered the protagonist has been giving gifts to the fairy Liu Li, and that this is very pleasant. For him to do this without any issues, the MC should first pay homage to her. Our hero knows that this kind of behavior is expected from such an important queen, but he understands that she owes him favors, which won't be so bad. He comments that the type of gifts he has been giving to the fairy Liu Lai are not suitable for the queen, and therefore offers something custom-made for her. Our protagonist then sends it to the queen. Upon receiving it, Hilo causes panic within herself. She became more beautiful than she was before, completely extravagant and charming. She is completely happy, commenting that this kind of thing does justice to who our hero is known to be. However, something ends up happening. The dress starts to tear an area of the girl's backside, but she notices this and automatically begins to feel sad. Due to the feelings she is experiencing, the girl tells the protagonist that he gave her a dress that is too tight. However, the protagonist's thoughts consist only of calling the woman fat. But in the end, he knows that this doesn't matter because with simple words he can resolve this problem. Then, outside the palace, the subordinates are gathered. Some people holding a type of fan are standing in a position resembling a plump figure. Apparently, a friend of fairy Liu Li asks where the fairy queen is, as she is hosting a banquet and is not in the hall. The little fairy responds that the fairy queen is probably embarrassed because she was completely overshadowed by the clothes. Suddenly, who appears at the location is none other than the Celestial Mother, asking who is embarrassed. This completely startles fairy Helioli, because the Celestial Mother is more attractive than she was before. She admires her new dress and is very happy. She poses in some parts, wanting to show how beautiful she is. Everyone starts to say how stunning the Celestial Mother looks. The fairy queen then comments that Helioli had mentioned not understanding fashion and she takes the opportunity to question Fairy Helioli about nobility. After the banquet, the Celestial Queen resumes her conversation with our protagonist, saying she never expected this kind of thing. She also informs him that the artifact our hero possesses is indeed divine and important to the people. Our MC shows no feelings other than concern. In the conversations, our hero says that everything is fine and lets the queen be happy. The Celestial Mother says she has nothing to offer right now but thanks him. However, she proposes to send the protagonist peaches of immortality. The MC receives this and is shocked to see what it is and how it looks. The woman then wishes our protagonist good luck on his journey. Our protagonist knows he was lucky because he sent only an imitation of a dress and in return received peaches of immortality. With this, our protagonist prepares to eat the divine fruit. A small bite causes impacts never felt before by our protagonist. Something inside him begins to change automatically. The effects caused are possibly the progression in strength, resilience, resistance, etc., increasing everything that the previous pill had enhanced. This is a wonderful experience that our protagonist is feeling to the point that he can't even describe it. In addition, our protagonist, being a good merchant, already has plans for that peach pit. He will finally be able to cultivate his own peaches of immortality. As all good things are short-lived, we return once again to the mansion of Elder Zhang. Inside, his subordinate calls for him, and he asks how things are going that the protagonist has been taken care of. The subordinate informs him that Tang Feng and Lin Tian have meticulously taken care of every aspect of the ecological park and found nothing. However, he found a clue about the young master who had gone missing. He then shows a photo of the protagonist's dog, informing that the local resident accidentally shot it on the day of the incident. With that, the subordinate also informs that the same dog was at Tang Feng's house. Moreover, it is the same dog that the young master keeps talking about. The elder then prepares to hire a professional in certain aspects. Furthermore, he thinks that our hero is not an ordinary person. Finally, we leave the elder's house for a Buddhist temple. Inside the Buddhist temple, there is a statue of a man painted in gold. However, some types of sounds, uncomfortable or extremely comfortable depending on the point of view, begin to be heard. The young man analyzes a jade pendant, saying that with such a product, it is no wonder that the person is becoming rich and protected at the same time. Then, holding the necklace, he asks Elder Zhang if he is really willing to part with it. In turn, he replies that yes, he is willing to do so. However, he would like the young man to do him a favor. Then the temple owner agrees to help as long as it does not harm anyone else. The elder shows something to the young man that ends up scaring him. It is a photo of the protagonist's dog. The man becomes frightened and asks how it ended up there. Elder Zhang asks the young man to take care of this because a hellish dog is being raised in the human world. Moreover, if the young man succeeds in his objective, it will be of great merit for him. This completely motivates the young man, who ends up letting his aura flow out. After resolving a bunch of problems, our protagonist rests. He is sleeping at his desk when suddenly he starts to be awakened by someone. The one waking him is Little Bean, asking how he is. The MC then asks what she is doing there. The girl replies that she was thinking about the protagonist and believes he was thinking about her too. As usual, he starts to ask what she is trying to teach him. She approaches and questions whether the MC is not happy to see her. He tries to respond that he is but ends up stammering, and so the girl asks to be hugged. In his thoughts, he thinks that if it is meant to happen, it will, as he is willing to commit to it. However, the girl reveals a rather unpleasant anxiety, squeezing our hero. Our hero begins to say that he cannot breathe due to the force the girl is applying in the hug. Then the girl responds to our hero that she is doing this because from now on, he will become her prisoner. It is then that our hero finally awakens from the dream or nightmare, calling for Little Bean. However, despite it being a dream, our hero is indeed tied up and wonders what is happening. It is when a blue-haired boy appears, laughing. Another emo, this time with pink hair, appears and explains to the protagonist that from now on, the hero is their prisoner. They are a group of 3 called the Inspectors of the City of God, and are there to capture our protagonist. One of the boys then shows our hero a wanted poster due to Tang Feng harboring a hellish dog. Our hero then wonders where those imposters came from and how a group called the Inspectors of the City of God can exist. Apparently, the leader of this group is the pink-haired boy, who orders his henchmen to go and capture our MC, who is already captured. The boys then jump towards the protagonist, asking him to prepare because the infernal battle will begin. An infernal attempt. Since our hero manages to stand still and still not receive any attack, the red-haired boy's sword and the blue-haired boy's sword end up breaking due to our hero being extremely strong. The 3 are then shocked because they think our protagonist is at a very high level and wonder what is happening with his body. How can such a thing coexist? Due to sleepiness, our hero starts to yawn, while the other 3 wonder if our protagonist is an immortal. Then the leader orders the 3 to attack together this time and not to be afraid of what might happen. They drop their swords and pull out submachine guns, shooting towards our hero. The protagonist questions whether the boys are not going too far with this. However, the boys do not care and start shooting even more at our hero. As expected, nothing affects the protagonist. Then they finally realize that Tang Feng is actually an immortal and cannot be defeated. He was just wanting to rest and ends up getting angry, warning the boys that now it will be his turn. In the blink of an eye, our hero frees himself from the ropes. His arms, which were once thin, begin to thicken. Our hero puts the boys on their knees and asks them to prepare, as they will suffer greatly. As good cowards, the group pleads with the protagonist not to hurt them, starting to cry. However, our MC does not care about this and begins to retaliate against the boys. Meanwhile, one boy was behind the door, merely observing the group being beaten, so he decides to leave before the protagonist sees him. Our MC is still inside the building that the clowns decided to invade. The three are on the ground, and the only one standing is our hero. The MC comments that he can clearly feel the effects of the peach. Although the taste is bad, the effects make it completely unbearable. However, our hero knows there is a boy behind the door and asks him to stop hiding and show himself. The person in question who is running is the god of soul harvest. Thus, to stop the boy, our protagonist takes off his shoes to throw them. As such, the hero throws the shoe at the boy to hit him and make him stop running. Meanwhile, the man was trying to enter the portal to the underworld. However, he ends up getting hit while thinking he would succeed. The hero possesses the ability of a mother's slipper, or in this case, the MC's sneakers. With that, the boy is no longer running, so our hero can question him about being there. But first, he asks how the boy is doing since it's been a while since they last saw each other. Fearing what might happen, the boy, with a trembling voice, says that the protagonist's magic has improved rapidly since the last time they met. He then questions whether the god of soul harvest is part of the stupid troupe, but he replies that he is not and is there for another reason. Toquino Preto then informs our protagonist that he only came to the normal world to communicate that the Hellhound must not be discovered. Moreover, the protagonist has not only been discovered by the Templars of the City of God, but has also defeated them, which will cause more problems between the three realms. However, these words hold no weight for our hero, as he does not care about such things. Our hero then grabs the boy and comments on how he is wasting his time warning him about this. His plan consists of going to the underworld to talk to those who control things there. Meanwhile, the colorful troupe is sitting on the ground, murmuring in pain. The protagonist, sitting in his chair like a good king, comments that he has discovered the reason the three are there. Two of the three are afraid of the protagonist because they know he is very strong, so they inform our hero that they are only there to follow orders. It doesn't end there. They explain that their orders were to capture the protagonist and take the Hellhound back to the underworld. Thus, our hero tells them to forget about the order to take his dog back, as that will not happen. They are left confused because they know they need to follow the orders given to them. In his thoughts, the protagonist knows he cannot leave things as they are, as it will cause even more problems affecting those around him. For his part, he knows that if he does not follow the order, he will face much greater problems, but he questions who would want to face someone with such power. The god of soul harvest tries to understand how he got caught up in this situation. Then quickly, the boy Balanplan introduces our protagonist as a Teoftist who may possess a hellhound, but the paperwork is still under review. He questions why an immortal cannot have such a powerful dog by his side. The three clowns know it is a lie but pretend to agree to get out of the whole mess and not end up getting beaten even more. Our protagonist is pleased with the attitude of the god of soul harvest as he managed to get rid of a small problem. Thus, the troupe of three clowns bids farewell to the protagonist, wishing him a great day. Suddenly, they stop walking as someone prevents them, which scares them. Our protagonist says he is sorry for hurting the boys and would like to show them something satisfying. The gift our protagonist will offer is a kit with a hairdryer, straightener, and some other hair products. This leaves the three little clowns perplexed by our hero, and the MC warns that it is not over yet as there are more rewards. Furthermore, our hero also provides an exclusive stylist for the three, which can be used as they see fit. Then, wanting to show affection and passion for the protagonist, the three kneel. They begin to flatter our protagonist, saying that this was expected from such an important person with high standards. The MC then returns home again. Finally at home, he will take the opportunity to rest in his beautiful bed. He complains that he hadn't had good nights of sleep before, and now, with all his problems being resolved, he can finally have what he desires. However, someone starts calling his cell phone, and he wonders, who is the annoying person bothering him now? Yet the city god appears again, but this time sending a message wanting to be friends with the protagonist. The god then comments that he knows all the things the protagonist has been doing. This leaves the MC in shock, as he thinks the god will settle the score with him. But the opposite happens as the god apologizes, saying that they made work-related mistakes and hopes the protagonist doesn't feel bad about it. He continues by saying that it is rude not to reciprocate the protagonist with an appropriate gift. The god then sends a small box containing coconut water, some books and pamphlets as well, and some food. Moreover, the protagonist is starving. But this only makes him angry, as he is not being treated like a person who truly deserves respect. So, in a sarcastic tone, he comments that he will give a gift to the god to show his kindness, sending the young man a pit. However, he doesn't understand what that is and asks his henchmen to come and see. The young man then explains that this is not an ordinary pit, but an extremely rare peach pit. Until then, the god didn't know the significance, but upon discovering that it has extremely high importance, he is shocked. The two start to think about what the MC could be until they reach a conclusion. The conclusion they reached was that the protagonist managed to flirt with the Queen Mother, attracting the Jade God. They are even more shocked, as they think this really happened. However, they try to see the bright side, thinking that this could just be a rumor that backfired. His subordinate then offers a cup of tea for the god to calm down and think carefully. However, this doesn't seem to work, as the young man knocks the cup that was being offered and says that the old man there knows nothing. In a tone of despair and guilt, he says that all of this must be the old man's responsibility, as before the protagonist, they are nothing but worms. Moreover, he says that if the other gods find out about the bribe that Zenga offered him, he will no longer officially be the god of the city. Again, he recounts that he didn't even know what was happening between the protagonist and the old Zenga, and ended up taking the wrong side in the war. However, his subordinate notices something that could work in their favor. His subordinate's plan involves involving the protagonist in a secret, making it so that neither can reveal the secrets of the other. Then the fool, pretending to be wise, faithfully believes in another plan concocted by his subordinate, who had already made a mistake, and sends our protagonist an amulet that the Elder Zenga had given him as payment for capturing the protagonist. Receiving the necklace, our protagonist thinks it's cool, but thinks it could be bought at any corner store near his house. But the young man explains that this is a gift prepared specifically for the MC, and that it is not a simple amulet. That if the protagonist injects his power into the amulet, there will be even greater things, so the MC begins to do what the old man said. But suddenly, a girl starts to appear, gradually revealing her affection and her body. Finally, she is revealed, but in a completely unusual way. The protagonist then wonders why it went wrong. It wasn't supposed to be a girl. The tied-up girl begins to walk around the place. Little by little, she frees herself from the ropes that bind her. She then asks our hero if he happens to be her master. However, our hero does not know what is happening and asks who she is. Then he starts to think that he cannot show fear and that it might be another prank. Thus, the girl introduces herself as Shao Qian, a ghost. She asks our protagonist to make a wish, as she can fulfill anything he desires. The MC then steps back a bit, feeling completely embarrassed, asking the girl to cover herself first, as he is not that kind of person. Therefore, our hero throws a piece of clothing to her and says it is too small for him to wear, so he will lend her his shirt. Then he starts to get dressed. For some reason, the girl calls our hero a hypocrite. With things settled, our hero begins by questioning if she had a master before. But for some reason, the girl gets angry, calling her previous master a complete useless son of a mother. Thus, she starts to explain that when she was young, her family got involved in a car accident during a trip. They ended up at the nearest hospital, and there she received the news that her parents unfortunately did not survive, and she was the only one left from her family. However, someone appeared to take her in. The person in question who ended up adopting the girl was Elder Zhang. Thus he took the girl to his home. It doesn't end there, as the girl explains that at Elder Zhang's house, she lived a life of a princess, a life that people would dream of having, and that continued until she turned 18. But suddenly, on her birthday, things started to change. She is sitting with Elder Zhang at a table to celebrate her birthday. He comments that he prepared a gift to give her. Then the girl starts to open the box that contains her gift. Inside is the same necklace that our hero has and was given to him as a gift. However, the necklace, which had been quiet until then, starts to shine, emitting a different energy. The girl begins to be drawn into the portal, complaining that it hurts while questioning what Elder Zhang did to her. Unfortunately, the poor thing was completely sucked into the crystal. The process is complete. Zhang's plan has finally come to fruition. A masked young man praises him for the ghost he managed to capture. It is revealed that from the beginning, Elder Zhang's plan was to kill the girl's parents and adopt her to build an innocence around her and ultimately use her as part of his plan. And now, inside the crystal, she starts banging, asking to be freed. The evil young man begins to think that now no one can challenge him anymore. With the girl by his side, he will have infinite money and will never have to worry about having no power over others. He explains that she was used as a mere tool to bring wealth to Elder Zhang while harming his rivals. This makes our hero angry, causing him to punch the wall. The little guy is so furious that the punch was strong enough to crack the wall while calling the old Elder Zhang despicable. The girl continues saying that she no longer has value to him since her power has already been completely used. Thus, our hero says he has only one wish for the girl, Obviously, it will be something malicious, thought out appropriately for Elder Zhang. The poor boy comments that this is to be expected from men's behavior, but she hardly knows that our hero will ask for something that will make him completely happy. Then our hero makes his request. His wish is for the girl to be happy again and free from the chains of the curse. Still at the protagonist's house after he made the request for the girl to be freed from the chains, the girl cannot understand what the protagonist is trying to say about freedom. Therefore, he explains that she is not a slave to anyone, and that is why he wishes for her to be completely freed. The MC, tightening the amulet, says that this kind of thing shouldn't even exist to begin with. Then he breaks it, leaving the amulet in complete pieces. Thus, he informs the girl that she is now free and that nothing can hold her back anymore. For her part, the girl starts to cry but still calls our hero master. She corrects her words, now calling him benefactor, and asks where she should go now that she is free, as she has no idea about things. Obviously, our hero did not think about what would come next after freeing her. Our hero then proposes that the girl unfortunately cannot go anywhere in her current state, and so he comments that perhaps reincarnating might help her. Then he takes out his phone and starts calling someone, saying that he will let professionals take care of the girl's reincarnation. Quickly, a portal begins to open in the middle of his room. Then that same soul harvest god from before appears. He was in his pajamas, ready for bed or possibly already sleeping. And then he asks what our hero desires and warns that he is bothering him on his day off. Our hero then calls his employee lazy and asks what the problem is with making him work some extra hours. The boy gets angry and says that the MC treats him like his maid. However, our hero takes a scroll and shows the boy what is written on it, containing things that will please him, but our MC questions, what does the boy mean by maid? Quickly, this changes the thoughts of the soul harvest god, who becomes happy again and asks what the MC desires. Our hero wishes for that girl over there to be reincarnated and explains that at this moment she is a ghost in the human world. She then greets the soul harvest god. The soul harvest god explains to our hero that this task will be a bit difficult because the way the girl is constituted is completely different. Thus, our hero gives more rewards to the soul man, saying that he did not hear what the boy was trying to explain. This quickly changes his behavior again, and he even kneels, saying he accepts the protagonist's request. Then he begins to conjure a portal. The soul harvest god calls for the girl, saying, but just before it closes. Meanwhile, the girl says she will return to be by our hero's side forever. However, our hero does not want that and asks the girl to live her life as she wishes. The girl is completely happy and wishes our hero good luck, but she starts to cry as she leaves. However, something happens to the girl. She suddenly falls to the ground, commenting that something in her body hurts while our hero tries to understand the girl's situation. Then the soul harvest god, who had already entered the portal, returns to question the reason for the girl's delay. The girl explains that she cannot enter because something is preventing her. Our hero thinks this is the fault of the soul god and begins to question him about it. But the boy explains that his fear has become reality. Unfortunately, the girl cannot reincarnate because she spent too much time in the human world. For her part, the poor girl becomes sad again, wondering how things ended up this way. Trying to cheer up his friend, our hero places his hand on her head and asks her not to be discouraged, as they will try other things to help her. Taking his gifts, the handyman says that if there's nothing more for him to do, he will return to the place he came from. Tang Feng even tries to ask the boy to wait a little longer, but unfortunately, it is useless as his butler entered the portal, returning to his home. The MC apologizes to the girl because he did not expect this kind of thing to happen. The girl asks our hero not to worry because this is her destiny. Throughout her life, she did bad things for Xiao Zheng. Our hero gets angry, asking the girl not to say something so frightening with such a calm face. But this makes our hero think of a plan to save the girl. Our hero says that the girl can live in his phone while he thinks of a way to help her. Clearly, the girl does not understand what the protagonist means by his cell phone and therefore questions him, asking for a more adequate explanation. The protagonist then gives an explanation, saying that she will not become a spiritual object for him. It is just temporary while he thinks of something. He warns her that as soon as he finds a way to truly help her, he will take her out of this situation so she can finally have her freedom. He then asks if she would like to do that. The girl, with few choices, ends up accepting our MC's gesture of goodwill. Then the process of her entering the cell phone and starting to make it her temporary residence begins. Our MC then asks the girl how she feels there and if she is comfortable. She replies that yes, she is comfortable and makes jokes about the amount of storage she has to occupy. However, something begins to happen. What is actually happening is that the girl has the freedom to leave the protagonist's cell phone whenever she wants, and happy for her freedom, she thanks the MC. Shyly, our hero responds that he is happy to help her with this and asks her not to worry. Thus, Tang Feng asks what the girl's name is, as they have not formally introduced themselves until now. The woman replies that she does not have one and wishes for Tang to give her one. So it is done. He begins to think of various names to give to the girl. The name that the girl will be known by from now on is Tang Xiao Qian. She shows happiness upon receiving this name. Clearly, she is euphoric because the name she received will be of extreme importance to her from now on. She hugs our hero in gratitude and tells him how fragrant our protagonist is, but he asks if it's just the scent of his son. She moves even closer to our protagonist, almost kissing him on the neck, saying that the scent is of peaches. Then, for some reason, she bites the protagonist's neck as if she were a vampire. In her thoughts, the girl comments that the sensation she is feeling is as if her soul is being remade from the beginning. But our protagonist is startled by the girl's action and tries to push her away, asking what she is doing. The girl realizes that her current behavior was not pleasant for our protagonist. Crying, the girl apologizes to our MC, saying that she did it only out of impulse. In tears, the girl apologizes again, saying that she won't do it next time. But our MC knows that perhaps she was attracted by the chemical power of his immortal body. Knowing this, our hero asks the girl to get up and explains that it is not her fault since she was made with a form of yin that the old man Zhang had created. Furthermore, he explains to the girl that he will personally take care of the elder Zhang. However, she holds the protagonist's hand, asking him to wait. The girl explains that Elder Zhang is extremely strong because he has connections with various people, even from the army. And he also knows yin-yang techniques and has many tricks up his sleeve that could end up hurting our hero. But this is nothing for our hero, as he is extremely strong and asks the girl not to worry about it. Our hero comments that he is different from the people the girl saw being hurt by Elder Zhang. He explains that he also has connections, but they are not just any kind of connections. The connections he has are with extremely powerful gods. The girl understands the protagonist's plan, which consists of preventing his immortal friends from causing a ruckus with the old man. But quickly, our protagonist regrets it, saying that no, his plan is different. She then questions whether our hero will ask the God of Souls to take the boy to the underworld. Again, our hero says no. Our hero's plan consists of letting the boy drown in his own poison. Then he says he dials 10 on his cell phone and waits for the person to answer. He called the police wanting to report an old aggressor. Then we have a brief flashback from 30 years ago. Two soldiers from the army crawl through the muddy ground while their superior asks them to be faster. This time they carry a strong wooden tower while again their superiors order them to be strong enough and not let the wooden tower fall. A soldier appears climbing the wall. Clearly, the poor boy is tired, so he takes a moment to rest while no one approaches. However, someone appears and touches him. This startles the boy as he does not know who it is. The boy who touched him is his superior. He comments that Sang Yanshin's performance is excellent and that the boy has broken the army record. Sang Yanshin salutes his superior, saying that this is part of the training and that it is thanks to the commander's guidance. For his part, the commander informs him that he has good news to share with Zhang Yanshin, basically commenting that he has been selected for the front, and one of them was Sang Yanshin. It doesn't end there, as his commander warns that there may be a conflict between the two countries, frightening Sang Yanshin. The next day, someone appears calling for Sang Yanshin. On the microphone, a soldier is looking for him. A friend of Sang Yanshin presents himself before another soldier and explains that his friend has requested a day off because he hasn't been feeling well. This leaves the boy perplexed, as no one can be approved without his permission. Then Tian's phone starts ringing. Talking to his commander, he asks what he would like. His commander, in turn, says that what he is doing is desertion with a punishment of imprisonment. But Tian doesn't care about that, as he joined the army to be a high-ranking commander and not just cannon fodder ready to fall on the front lines. Your commander counters the arguments by saying that serving in the army should be an honor to defend your people. But Sang Yanshin doesn't care about that. With a malicious affection, the young man simply wishes good luck to his old commander. Then it is explained that Tian used fake papers to issue his resignation from the army, which ended up making him the director of an office. Furthermore, it is also explained that he has bad intentions to be applied. This led him to become involved in corrupt negotiations with obscure companies. After retiring, he used his influence to cultivate violent organizations in the area where he worked. The types of establishments that Sang Yanshin managed are mentioned. They were brothels, casinos, among others. Additionally, the police officer who received the information says that now everything makes sense. Piece by piece, it has all been connected. The officer thanks Tang Feng for the clues provided, as they will be extremely important for capturing the president of Qinglong. However, the officer is suspicious of how our hero ended up discovering all of this and thus questions, how? Our hero tries to deflect, saying that he received this information from the victim, and that the most important matter now is to arrest Sang Yanshin. Elder Sang ended up leaving a teacup that shattered. Quickly, he predicts that this might not be a good omen. This completely frightens him. His secretary appears in his office, saying that something has happened. First, he asks his secretary to calm down and explain what horrible thing is happening. She asks him to look outside. Outside, there are journalists and several police officers setting up an operation to arrest the elder. Directly from the national news, the presenter talks about the case that the police are now investigating in one of the nearby provinces. A brief panoramic view of the international team online building appears in the background. The police officer who is on the case is also there, along with news about the investigations. Holding his cell phone with the Twitter app, Elder Zhang sees the news about himself and becomes worried. Thus, he suspects that the person behind all of this is our hero. Then, in anger, he breaks the cell phone in half. Therefore, he takes the opportunity to escape the situation by heading to his ship to distance himself as far as possible from the country. Climbing the stairs, he comments that due to his immense wealth, he still has hidden funds that can help him recover later. Thus, he informs the captain to head towards the Bermuda Triangle and asks him to be careful, as he does not want to be found, avoiding the border guard. With that resolved, he heads towards the Bermuda Triangle. Then he begins to vent to the supposed captain of the boat, commenting on how foolish and useless Tang Feng is for involving the police in a dispute between the two. Our hero then reveals himself and asks if the old man misses him so much that he can't stop mentioning his name. Our character fully reveals himself, questioning the audacity of Elder Zhen. Obviously, this leaves the young man in shock, as he did not expect the captain of the boat to be Tang Feng. Our hero then orders the boat to stop moving. With his power, he splits the metal in half. This frightens Elder Zhang even more. Our hero is amazed by his power. However, Elder Zhang will not back down and asks Tang Feng to stop his silly and foolish antics, as they will not work on him. Returning to speak with the protagonist, he asks if he thinks he wouldn't use all kinds of methods possible to get where he is. And our hero is now truly certain that that old man committed murders to achieve his goals. Then he manages to notice something that the protagonist probably hasn't realized yet, recognizing the strategy of kneeling and asking for forgiveness. This is how the rest works not. The protagonist is startled by this behavior, as he did not expect this kind of thing, saying that he resembles a chameleon. However, he comments that this is a good world and that one must recognize when to bow down and when to stand up. However, this was not what we expected, as the old man was actually intoning a song to awaken his power. Due to the power summoned, our protagonist realizes that he is no longer the same. Then the man shoots from the magic eye, a power that passes very close to the protagonist, but fortunately, our hero managed to dodge in time. However, the boat suffered damage, causing a small explosion around. Our protagonist then realizes that what people had said about it was true. Now the imposing old man, after having taken a tadalafil, asks our protagonist not to give up the fight, as they have finally reached the climax. Then he realizes that the little donkey is trying to destroy his life to drag the protagonist down with him. Thus, Elder Zhang enters a fighting stance, asking the protagonist to do the same. Elder Zhang is again the first to strike at our hero, who manages to defend himself at first. That punch Elder Zhang threw was blocked by a kind of barrier from our protagonist. That barrier is different because it is three-dimensional, causing the punch to land elsewhere without hitting our MC. He then realizes this and starts to question what Tang Feng truly is, as he cannot defeat the MC. The hero then comments that the young man cannot hit him because he is weak, questioning when he will actually touch him. Our protagonist then says, "Look how I do everything better than you," and moves towards the old man. Thus, our protagonist's friend begins to appear at the location. The girl is now stronger than ever, appearing and asking the man to choose his fate. Due to the fight on the boat, it begins to sway even more, causing small tsunami waves around. Then, upon realizing who the girl is, he asks what she is doing there, as he had sent her to the city of gods. The girl, now angry, asks the old man not to assume that everyone is trash like he is. Our hero says this is all for a good cause. The old man deserves it for the immense injustice he has committed throughout his life. He then calls out the full name of Zheng Yuantian. She speaks of the murder he committed against her parents, destroying her life and turning her into a kind of ghost. What the girl desires is for that young man to have the same fate that her parents unfortunately had. She charges with all the fury and hatred contained in her heart, but the old man just laughs like a joker. For his part, Zheng Yuantian, conjuring spells, asks our poor dragonist why, as his former master, he should fear that girl. Then he falls to the ground. Automatically, a seal on his forehead begins to appear, causing her pain. Clearly, Tang Feng did not expect this and is startled to see his friend fallen. The old man takes advantage of this situation to flee while Tang Feng stays by the girl's side to see if she is okay. He jumps off the boat, waving goodbye to Tang Feng. Our protagonist starts shouting, calling him a coward and asking him to show himself. Falling into the sea, he comments that our hero is smart but not smart enough, as he lacks much preparation. He again states that the only way for our protagonist to catch him is if he has set a trap in the sea. But he notices a noise coming from behind him. Little did he expect that our hero would send his hellhound out to capture him if he tried to escape. Only tears and despair were left at first. He is completely torn apart by our MC's little dog. With that, our hero comments that he cannot complain about this because he never said there would be no ambush coming from the sea. The dog then approaches the boat a little more. The protagonist then asks how things are inside his stomach. Fortunately for the old man, the dog could not fully digest him, causing him to regurgitate out. Thus, he comes out completely dirty with foul liquids. Because of this, our MC warns the old man that he is so disgusting that even his hellhound could not fully digest him. The only thing left for Elder Zhang was flattery. He begs the protagonist to spare his life, as the hero should not dirty his hands with trash. Our protagonist says that indeed he is a very exemplary person to dirty his hands. He sees a glimmer of hope in our MC's words, but it was not what he expected, as our MC asks Xiao Feng to do the job for him. The girl begins to extract the soul from within the body using her powers. Meanwhile, the old man screams in pain. He warns our protagonist that even being turned into a ghost, he will not leave our hero in peace and will return to settle the score. Our hero shivers at the thought of a ghost pursuing him for the rest of his life. But beside the MC is his friend from the afterlife. Our hero explains to the old man that after he goes through this initial phase, worse things will happen to him. Then a portal appears beneath the young man, slowly sucking him in. From there, all the souls he disturbed over the years begin to appear, pulling him inside, and he falls into despair as his end has just arrived, and in the worst possible way. Again he screams asking for help, asking for forgiveness, but nothing will bring back the life he had before. The boat docks again right after the defeat of the Elder Zhang. The two stand still, observing the situation, saying that finally everything is over. The girl then thanks Tang Feng for the help he provided. However, she warns him that her mother is calling, and so she takes her phone to answer. On the call, his mother talks about a blind date she has arranged for him, and he questions why she did that. The boy then informs Xiao Qian that he has to go home, and so he asks her to enter his phone again. Despite being upset, the girl cannot refuse since that is her home full-time. The hero then sets off to the designated place to see who the blind date is with. In his thoughts, Tang Feng comments that he never expected this day to come. Then the girl from the blind date appears and hugs him, asking Tang Feng to pay more attention to her. Another woman also appears, but she is blonde and asks for the same thing as the previous woman. However, others also appear, surrounding him and asking for his attention. Our hero comments that it is the first time he is surrounded by so many beautiful women and would like to share this moment on Instagram. The protagonist sighs, saying he doesn't know what to do with the amount of luck he has been having in recent days. Xiao Kaman is jealous because all those women are more beautiful than she is and asks Tang Feng not to fall for the princess's tale. However, someone starts calling his phone, asking to be answered through the headset because there are important messages to relay. Tang Feng, upon receiving this type of call, already worries. He then informs the girls that he needs to take the call. They ask him to come back soon because they want to spend more time with him. Answering the phone, he asks how Ilao is after so long without talking. Ilao complains that the protagonist has been using his magic rope incorrectly, warning that he will report him to the higher gods. Then he remembers all the times he used the rope the wrong way. The first time he used it was with a lone shark, making him completely fall in love with the pig. While he was looking at the photo, he receives a friend request from someone. The person in question is Buddha, and our MC says it is the first time he has received such a friend request from someone like that. He then accepts the friend request. Buddha appears in his original form, asking if our protagonist has fully attained his enlightenment. Besides quoting a phrase, "Form is emptiness, and emptiness is form." Our hero comments that with a simple message, Buddha conveyed a feeling he had never experienced before. With that, our protagonist thanks Buddha for the guidance given. However, he reminds the young man that he is not a Buddhist and cannot detach so easily. Despite everything, Buddha tells our protagonist that he will give him a gift called the prayer rope. Buddha then advises him to use this cord and see the beauties that await him. The girls inside are happy that our protagonist has returned, saying they waited for him for a long time. He then activates the ability that Buddha gave him to see through the illusion. A strong light is emitted, blinding a good part of the girls. Our protagonist then begins to see the true form of the tables, one even having a tail coming out of a pleasant place. However, it is revealed that those women are not actually women but hidden demons using human bodies to possess them afterward. Realizing they have been discovered, they start to leave the place, which infuriates Tang Feng. Angry, he asks who the person trying to marry him to evil is, and thus he will have to find out who is behind this trick. In another establishment, someone asks the person not to be so insecure about themselves. A beautiful lady informs how kind and handsome the guy is. The man in question is revealed. He asks if what the girl is saying is true, as he has never been in a previous relationship. Thus, the woman hands him a pamphlet, saying she will introduce him to some very special girls. She warns that the women she will introduce like mature guys like him. Then the boy receives the pamphlet. Upon looking more closely at the pamphlet, he completely changes his behavior, adopting a perceptive look. However, our hero appears in the background, breaking the door and entering the place stylishly. Turning around, the silver-haired girl asks who it is. Tang Feng praises the girl for her audacity in messing with him. She then takes advantage of the situation, asking the little guy in front of her to protect her from the violent man. The protagonist reveals that he has already figured out the girl's tricks, asking her to stop pretending. It is revealed that the girl uses men to absorb their primordial yang energy. This frightens her because it is true. Another woman appears on the scene, asking Lai Lei what is happening since she heard a loud noise. Lei Li asks Shen Yan to call the police because our hero is causing trouble in her establishment. Angry as our protagonist is, he charges at Shen Yan, disorienting her. She sleeps like a child on the floor while our hero prepares to resolve the issue with Lai Lei. However, he questions where all these succubi are coming from and states that the woman in front of him is definitely not human. Moreover, he questions how she has the audacity to lie to him using tricks on someone as skilled as he is, asking the girl to finally reveal herself. She says it's fine. Since our hero desires it, she will reveal her true form. Her body quickly begins to transform while our protagonist observes in the background. The chubby guy, who had been trying to defend the girl, starts to feel unwell. Lai Lai is different from the other succubi because she has 3 tails. Our protagonist notices this difference between her and the other foxes that had appeared to him. The girl is in her true form while the chubby guy is staggering on the ground. Warning our protagonist, she says she is impressed because he is not disoriented by her aura. Indeed, our protagonist is not disoriented by the girl's powers, but rather by her seduction. But he warns that with that kind of power, she won't even be able to touch him. 5 Tails warn that our protagonist, despite being tempted by her beauty, did not let himself be swayed regarding this. The protagonist changes his behavior, contradicting everything he had said before, going towards the girl and embracing her. His plan apparently worked. The girl activates the ocular power of the infinite Genjutsu. Unfortunately, our hero ends up falling into the Genjutsu. On his phone, Shao Qian appears, complaining that Tang Feng was foolish enough to fall for such a thing. Meanwhile, she takes advantage of the situation to absorb Tang Feng's energy. But Shao Qian wants to do something about it. However, it is already daytime, so she cannot go outside the phone. She warns that because his primordial energy is so strong, it is making her hungry. The two prepare to kiss, but they automatically stop halfway because something startled the girl. What startled her was actually the protagonist's own hellhound, which appeared there angry. His dog, fierce as always, starts growling at the girl. With each passing minute, a loud growl is heard. Outside, we can have a panoramic view of its attack heading towards the poor girl. The little fox then questions where that big dog came from and what it ate to grow so much. Our hero then realizes the situation he is in, commenting to the girl that she is very skilled and made him fall into her Genjutsu again. He warns that in the village where he came from, foxes are afraid of dogs. The girl says she is not just any succubus and asks how our protagonist dares to challenge her like this. For her part, she charges to attack them, using her move called the Furious 5-Tailed Fox. Definitely, her power is immense, but not enough to even hurt Tang Feng. Knowing that nothing will happen to him, our protagonist asks his dog to protect him. A single paw swipe was enough to stop the girl's attack. She ends up getting hit in the face, causing her pain. Due to the force used, she is thrown backward. She then realizes how strong the protagonist's dog is, but apparently, despite recognizing the strength of both, she will not give up so easily. Preparing for another attack, she questions how the protagonist does not have the courage to care about the people around him that his big dog might hurt. He then responds back, saying he cannot believe the illusions the fox has been projecting and therefore does not worry. He continues, saying that since the girl is too stubborn to just accept it, he will show the true ability of his dog. Then the big dog activates its supreme ability. The dog shrinks in size to pass through the wall, however it still ends up destroying everything around. When shown, the girl is begging for forgiveness and calling her hero master. She asks her master to tell her hellhound to stop using its divine ability because she can no longer give up. Next to her, the dog then stops using the divine ability, and our hero celebrates his victory. Our MC is perplexed because that was not a city in itself, but rather a cemetery that the girl was using. Then they question how many lives the girl has taken over the years. She responds that she has never taken anyone's life and that she has only been cultivating for 2 to 3 months. Our hero then replies, saying that he is not an idiot to believe this talk because in 2 to 3 months, no one could achieve 5 tails in such a short time. The girl, for her part, responds that it is true. She explains to the protagonist that 3 months ago, she was just a young adult fox. She mentions that at a certain point, she started feeling very hungry, and that's why she decided to find a village to feed herself. She explains that when she went, she only wanted to steal a chicken to fill her hungry belly, but she ended up finding something else. What she found was a rather unique pig, and therefore that pig, besides being weak and thin, she warns, for some reason was full of food inside. Then they question why the pig wasn't eating. The little pig, for its part, responds that it fell in love with someone, and the disease of love left it sick, with no appetite. Returning to the present, The girl explains that the person in question left and never came back, leaving the pig alone to suffer. Moreover, she mentions the name of the person in question. His name was Sun Xing Yang Zi, the same name that the protagonist had tied to the rope of fate. For some reason, our hero is crying, saying that the story is deep and totally inspiring. But still, our hero cannot understand why this story has to do with the fact that she became such a strong fox in such a short time. Thus, she continues the story, saying that right after the pig finished speaking, she ended up revealing herself, and with that, a red cord appeared around her. The fox observes that cord attentively. She explains that the cord has such an attractive magic that she couldn't resist and ended up touching it. It was then that suddenly the form our hero is seeing completely possessed her. Then she shows the cord in question that our hero already knows, warning that when she regained her senses, she was already in human form. In thought, Stangfing says that this is quite a coincidence, and how can someone be so lucky? Our hero then informs the girl that this cord originally belonged to him, and therefore asks for it back. Prostrating herself again before the protagonist, the girl asks the hero not to take the cord away because it is the basis for her human form. She then says something that hurts our hero inside, talking about him not being able to achieve the primordial yang form yet. He gets angry, saying that the girl can keep the cord because he doesn't need it since he is a veteran when it comes to love. The girl then thanks him, calling Stangfing the immortal ancestor of foxes. However, he recalls something. He questions why that girl lying on the ground hasn't returned to her original form since everything he touches in demon form goes back to normal. With that, the five-tailed fox explains that the girl is not a demon, but rather a normal human. Thinking better of it, our hero blames himself because he thought that all the people there were just succubus foxes and thus jumped to a hasty conclusion. The five tails tell our protagonist that the girl partially works in her establishment and that she took her in because her family is poor. Little Fox Chan warns that she will take the other foxes to the mountains, leaving him free. However, she will leave the red-haired girl for our hero to take care of. Therefore, Tangfeng doesn't know what to do this time since the responsibility will fall on him. Then, after the situations have been resolved, he heads home in his car. Inside his car, he looks to the side to observe the girl more closely, reaching the conclusion that the girl is simply very attractive. However, while he was observing the girl, she ends up waking up. She wakes up questioning who the person next to her is and how she is in a car. For this reason, Tangfeng apologizes to the girl, saying that he ended up causing her a small problem due to the misunderstanding, also warning that he is not a bad guy. But the girl hesitates upon realizing that she is being taken to his home, saying that she wouldn't like to go there. He then asks why the girl hadn't warned him earlier but completely forgets that she was unconscious. However, he ends up informing her that they have arrived at the designated location. He doesn't understand why that city is so much worse than the village he lives in, and so he questions the girl. Nevertheless, for some reason, the girl moves closer to our hero, touching his arms. Our hero realizes how scared the girl is and thinks that she must have a good reason for not wanting to go home. He tells the girl not to worry because he will see what is happening and resolve the problem. With their arrival, someone hears the noise of the vehicle and quickly comes outside. A young man with an uncomfortable appearance comments on the girl returning home and even bringing a man. The woman hides behind the protagonist in fear, and he reassures her not to be afraid because he is there to protect her. Then Scarface looks at our hero with a psychopathic gaze and laughs. Apparently, the young man is not much of a man as he changes his behavior to welcome his gender. Both our NC and the girl are confused about what is happening, so the young man says he approves of their marriage, stating they can have a party anywhere, anytime, just let him know. Our hero informs Scarface that he is mistaken because he is not her boyfriend. He questions how one can say that while being so close to the girl. Still, the young man only shows interest in what the protagonist has as he moves closer to his car, questioning the value of the vehicle. Thus, he takes the protagonist's hand, leading him inside the house. There, the three of them go up the stairs toward the house. Inside apartment 404, the three are gathered. Sitting on the sofa, they are shy and embarrassed about the situation they find themselves in. Therefore, the redhead with the scar asks them to sit down because they must be hungry, and he will prepare food for them. But holding a knife, the young man shows that he might not plan to make a good meal as he claims. Tanquifeng, thinking that the girl's father has good intentions, questions why she doesn't want to go home. Clearly, she knows that this is nothing but a facade, as she trains like a power drill. She then reveals that the person in question is not her real father. A brief flashback shows the redhead and Scarface having an argument because he doesn't want to allow the girl to go to college. He questions the usefulness of college, stating that in the end, it will be the same. The girl will work for others, resulting in a waste of money. Therefore, the girl uses her mother as an argument, saying that she would never prevent her daughter from going to college. Then the young man gets angry, asking her never to mention her mother's name again, slapping the girl. He warns that the mentioned woman is not her mother. He states that his mother traded them for a college student simply because she was swayed by sweet words. Thus, he tears up the girl's acceptance certificate for college, saying she needs to focus on finding a man to marry and that he should be rich. The girl, seeing her certificate torn, also has her dreams cut in half. Still in flashbacks, the girl explains that to achieve her dream, she had to start working, but this needed to be before classes began. She warns that one job was not enough to earn the money, which ended up resulting in more than 3 jobs. She gave her all in every job she had because she had a goal in mind. Back in the present, she tells our hero that she needs to prove that she can do things without depending on the young man. Our hero, on the other hand, acknowledges that unfortunately, he won't be able to help much because it involves personal and family matters. Dinner is served. Scarf has put effort into what he prepared for our hero, asking for that gente. Politely, the protagonist notes that everything looks very good and is quite luxurious, saying that it probably took a lot of work for the young man to cook. While dining, he asks Tang Feng to try the chicken stew with mushrooms, as everything was hand-picked and is completely fresh. A few minutes after they start dinner, the protagonist's phone begins to ring. This startles him because it is not good news for him. The message reveals that the mushroom is poisoned. We are still in the house where our hero left to help. Who appears by his side is Shao Kahn, warning that the mushroom our benefactor is eating is poisoned. Upon hearing this, our hero spits all the food out. He starts coughing, and his supposed father-in-law asks if he is okay. Thus, Tang Feng replies that he is fine and just ate too quickly, which caused him to choke. Then his father-in-law asks him to eat slowly, as our MC has probably never eaten such delicious marshmallows in his life. His daughter also prepares to eat, but the MC knows he cannot let her touch that. He ends up asking her to wait a minute before eating. However, for some reason, the girl feels no effect and ends up saying that the food is very good. She continues eating more and more of that food without worry, but the atmosphere of the place gradually changes due to what our Tang Feng knows about the food. The people around the protagonist chew with such satisfaction that it seems that the food is on a level above expectations. This makes our MC question whether that food really has some kind of poison, as they do not stop savoring it in a splendid manner. Again, Shao Kahn appears, asking him to look closer, as he is sure that food contains poison. Thus, he activates his ocular genjutsu ability to see if things are right. Around him, the father and daughter ghosts surround him, probably wanting their souls. He knows he needs to do something to end that situation, so he grabs the girl's hand, asking her to stop eating immediately. It is already too late, as Tian Ya is completely possessed. Our hero, in turn, questions how quickly they lost their soul. To solve the problem, our protagonist takes out his phone and asks Shao Kahn for help. The temporary solution was to tie the two up, keeping them away from the food. Therefore, Tang Feng is holding the final hive from the mushroom in his hands, saying that the old man used it to make the food. At first, our hero asks the girl if she recognizes that type of mushroom, but she explains that she does not and only felt a demonic aura. Thus, the only option left to discover what it is to ask an immortal god. He sends a photo of the mushroom and asks if the young man in question knows this type of mushroom. Quickly after receiving the message, an old man with white hair replies to our hero's message. The one who responded was Song Simeo, the god of medicine. The immortal god then replies that this item is not a simple common thing, and therefore it will not be easy to detoxify the people. He explains that the name of that mushroom is Lingzi, a mushroom that contains the souls of those who have passed away, warning that it will take time to resolve this problem. Returning to the protagonist, he informs Shao Qian that it will take some time, as the old medicine man cannot create the antidote quickly. Meanwhile, Shao Qian was looking for a clue to help. When she finds one, she asks her master to come to her. The two are facing a wall where they can feel a demonic aura emanating from it. Our hero then responds that the only solution to open that wall is to punch it. After the punch, the wall cracked into pieces. Inside, the MC is startled by what he sees, despite there being no light. He is completely perplexed by what he is seeing. Inside that room, there are tons and tons of that mushroom. After discovering this, the two enter to gather more information about how there is such a quantity of mushrooms in that place. Inside, they search for information that might help them understand how that came to be. It is explained that for that type of thing to happen, the location in question must possess souls that are being fed by something supernatural. Our hero knows that something is still wrong, as he has not found any vengeful spirits so far, which signifies something. It is when he looks down, as he is sure that the vengeful spirits are lurking there. He then comments to Shao Kahn that he should have learned some tricks to use at this convenient moment. He is only worried about this because, in moments like this, it would be good to have a name or a type of move to use. Thus, his most basic attack consists of punching the ground, causing a small tremor around, in addition to the destruction of the place. With nothing stopping them, they enter the hole made to investigate what is really happening. They then manage to look at the location in question. The whole souls are inside a circle where the symbol of Yang and Tang meet. The souls are within a circle that contains the symbol of Yin and Yang. The little girl next to the protagonist recognizes that symbol, saying it is a sacrificial altar that even her ancient master has used. Our protagonist finds this utterly despicable, arguing that people who do such things should undergo a specific judgment from the 18th level of hell. After a quick decision to do something about it to free the souls, Shokan interrogates a PL, saying he must wait a bit. She warns that due to the many vengeful spirits, they cannot control them, and moreover, the cause of their demise is completely unknown. Pausing to think a bit about his attitude, our MC reflected that what the girl said makes sense, and therefore he needs specific help. So our hero seeks reinforcements from Shokan, the god of lives, and a few others from the city of God. The group of 2 stooges arrived to provide assistance to our hero. The 3 did not come alone. They also brought more people to help. Everyone without exception kneels before the protagonist, greeting him. Moreover, the god himself also bows to our hero, informing him that he brought all the people the protagonist requested. But he gets angry upon discovering that those people are merely beauty salon professionals. Still, he thanks them and asks everyone to do the work that needs to be done. The troop is highly armed, so they prepare to work like never before. The one in pink delivers a Thor-like hammer strike to a hole. Again, another Thor-like hammer strike in a different location. As that wall breaks, more vengeful spirits begin to emerge. However, the ghost of an old woman appears in front of our hero, asking him to be careful. The old ghost then places her hands on the ground. She and a multitude of ghosts bow before the protagonist in gratitude. However, Tang and Fenjin do not understand why they are doing this. He will search deeper for information and will bring justice for those suffering souls. The chained souls head towards the underworld, now having a better fate. Since the spirit's problems have been resolved, the only issue left is to get rid of all those mushrooms. And so they ask to set them on fire, thus eliminating them all at once. But our hero warns the foolish Chaohide that if they set fire to those mushrooms, it will leave the entire city high on mushrooms. The woman then asks the MC what they should do, as they cannot just leave it as it is. Then our hero reassures them not to worry, as he has already found a buyer for those mushrooms. The 3, still observing everything, try to understand how it is possible to have so many mushrooms. The woman gets angry because our protagonist has the idea of selling all those mushrooms, and she asks how he has the capacity to do that with someone. Then he informs her that she is completely misunderstanding him, as he will sell the products to the god of medicine. The god of medicine, already with a sample of the mushroom, laughs, saying that all types of medications are toxic in some way. And he continues, as every medication has toxins and properties that help. But he asks how he will transport the exuberant quantity he has. For his part, Tang Feng asks him not to worry and just to watch what he will do now. He then activates the secret technique and starts filming all those mushrooms, sending it in video format. The old man is delighted and comments that our protagonist has an exuberant power. With everything resolved, the MC reminds the gentleman not to forget the immortal seeds he needs to send. Then the god of medicine responds that he does not need to worry about that either, as he will send them immediately. But suddenly, his phone starts ringing, and who is calling is Kyo Jojo. Then the old man asks the girl the reason for the call, as although he is not busy, he is resolving some small issues. Trembling and scared, the girl asks Tang Feng to go to the hospital because something has happened. She explains that unfortunately, or fortunately for some, Shangzi is collapsing. Since her friend needs help, there is nothing left for Tang Feng but to rush to the hospital. As he approaches, he opens the door in desperation and calls for her. Then he asks her what is really happening and requests better explanations. She warns him that it would be better if he looks in person. Then he looks and is startled because the old man is on all fours on the bed. The hero does not understand why the old man is like this since the rope has been removed. The girl says that although they are not actually married, she was treated well by him. Then our hero says that she does not need to apologize, as it is he who should be sorry, and comments that his farm is doing well and that he will help the girl pay the money. However, the girl has feelings for Xanji and says that even though he does wrong, he cannot simply abandon her. Our hero warns that everything will be fine. The protagonist then steps away, saying he will save him personally, freeing Sam from the clutches of fate in a fair and honest way. He opens the door to the room where Shangzi was and begins to observe the rough behavior of that young man. Our hero then strikes him in the neck, causing him to fall asleep. Next to our hero, someone asks if, despite the young man being in that state, he can still be saved. Tang Feng replies not to worry and to leave things to him, as he will resolve it. Then Tang Feng sends a message to his immortal friends. A baby appears calling for her sister, saying that Shangzi has been found in the mortal realm, The girl, in turn, complains about the noise and comments that she is busy. But she stops what she is doing to question when the mule descended to the realm of humans and truly became a human. The same baby from before warns that although she has found the young man, he is in trouble with big problems. Her sister complains about the years without seeing him. She is informed that the poor fellow was captured by the primordial Toyotist, and they wonder how this could happen since the main character has all the gods on his side. Then the noble woman also thinks about joining the protagonist's side and becoming part of his harem, but the only option left is to grab her phone and send a message to Tang. They found a way to save the young man by sending our hero a type of mirror to help. The celestial sister comments that it is her treasure. Our hero questions the simplicity of what he must do, but still ends up obeying and throws the magic mirror on top of the young man. Fearing, Tang Feng begins to think about what is wrong with Sun Xiangji since the young man has transformed into a mule, and everything about him resembles one. Both are scared because Sun Xiangji has completely turned into a mule. He then holds the phone and asks the reason for the transformation. It is then that the girl explains again that the mirror returns a person to their original form, the form he had when he was a pack donkey. She complains because she had given a gift to that donkey so he could do as he pleased, but he used it to spy on the woman while she bathed. The solution she came up with to resolve this problem was to use scissors and turn that mule into a completely incapable reproducer. Complaining after having performed the surgery on the mule, she warns that out of anger over what had happened, he descended to a sacred place and things went wrong. The two are just standing there, observing his true original form. Besides that, they think of a way to tell the man how he is at the moment. Our hero then proposes to the young man that he return and take his revenge completely. Besides that, they think of a way to tell the man how he is at the moment. Our hero then proposes to the young man that he return and take his revenge completely. That mule does not seem very happy about this but agrees. Our protagonist is happy because all his problems have ended, but he forgot something important and thus wonders how he should explain. Apparently, the girl suffered some sort of amnesia as she is wondering how she is in the hospital. It is then that out of nowhere, the celestial sister appears, saying that the mirror she lent to our hero can erase the memories of people who have come into contact with it. The woman asks Tang Feng why he is so cheerful, also asking if something good has happened. Our hero is completely happy and therefore kisses her, saying that they can finally be together. Despite kissing, the woman does not like it and pushes our hero away, calling him disgusting and saying he is taking advantage of her. He tries to explain that he is not taking advantage of anyone, and to show this, he gives her a gift as an apology. All of this was just a joke from Zhou Jiao. Our hero gets angry upon discovering this, and because of that, the woman starts eating the gift he gave her. She rides in delight at how delicious the fruit is. Our hero says she is being overly dramatic, but her body begins to change and her clothes explode. Our hero then realizes that the girl was being serious. He falls backward, saying he cannot bear to see such a magnificent sight for too long. Still in the room, they try to find a way to resolve this. Fortunately, he has the clothes that Liu Liu had given him, so he hands them to the girl, making her wear them and looking extremely charming. Jealous, she then asks if our hero is dating another girl, as it makes no sense for him to be carrying women's clothes around. In this situation, he turns completely red because he does not want to be misunderstood. Putting his shyness aside, he starts recording the girl, saying they need to take a photo together and post it on Instagram to make single people sad. In her castle, the Celestial Empress comments on the extraordinary person our hero has managed to find. She is happy, saying she needs to build a good relationship with the protagonist woman. She then intends to give a gift to Tang Feng and his new wife as a wish for good luck. With that, the Empress says it will not be easy to explain to our hero and that he should just give a celestial item to the girl. Thus, she says that due to the tomatoes he sold, he managed to earn a lot of jewelry and he should choose one of those to give to his fiancée. He then hands the object to the girl. She, in turn, not understanding, questions what it is and holds it in her hands, realizing it is a root, but suddenly that thing starts to grow more and more, and she asks how it ended up becoming thick and large. Clearly, the one who ends up happy is Tang Feng, as he will use those powers to earn even more money. It is then that he notices and becomes scared because he cannot just give that away, as it is an incredible ability. So he looks at his wife and says he has a plan. Upon hearing it, the girl is also shocked by what he has planned. Basically, he wants to do a Jack and the Beanstalk, as he is asking the girl to touch his little beans. He only thinks about money, but the girl, with not much else to do, ends up accepting and starts to conjure her new ability. Upon touching the bean, they all create little faces resembling those from Among Us. However, after gaining forms, the little beans start to dance. Meanwhile, Zhao Zhao hugs them, saying they are very cute. Basically, his plan consists of cultivating those beans like his children. The two end up feeling shy, asking what names they will grow up with. With no creativity as always, he says that the name of all those little ones will be Octopus Bean Tang. But the girl ends up getting angry, saying she will not allow her children to be called that. However, out of nowhere, Xiao Qian comes out of the phone. Xiao Qian is jealous as she comes out complaining that they are both calling each other mommy and daddy and leaving her out. Then the protagonist's fiancé starts to get scared because she sees a ghost, and it is when our hero remembers that Xiao was also in his life. He then decides to introduce the two. He introduces the girl as Tang Qian, the female ghost he had saved before, and the other as Zhao Jiao, his childhood love. But the girl is angry because she thought Tang Feng had no other woman in his life, and now she discovers that there is. She then turns angrily, saying she does not want to talk to him anymore. For his part, Tang Feng asks her not to misunderstand, as he treats the ghost like a little sister. She then feels happy to hear this. Therefore, she grabs the protagonist by the collar and says that even if there was nothing, it would not matter because the MC will always be her man. This makes the little ghost angry, and the little beans also get angry for some reason, but she puts her anger aside and starts playing with the little creatures. She continues saying that those creatures are nice and gentle with her but are hitting her, and the protagonist warns her about it. So she tries to think of a plan to make our hero like her. Basically, she will take care of the little beans in exchange for that. Again, she goes back into the phone, and the protagonist's wife asks who Meyer is. He tries to change the subject by saying that the girl still needs her powers to earn more money. So he grabs a sandal. The girl finds that disgusting and questions what is wrong with it. Our hero asks her not to worry about the details, transforming that into a cool sneaker. She then asks if that is all he wants, but he replies that there is something more she needs to do. Then he pulls out several items for the girl to transform. She, in turn, gets angry because she knows she is being used, so she starts using her powers on each of those objects. Thus, the protagonist's wife says it would be very undesirable if he cheated on her after doing so much, and he responds that a lightning bolt should strike him if he does that. And it is when, absurdly, a lightning bolt strikes in his direction. After wishing for a lightning bolt to strike him, what he wished for happens. Unfortunately, a lightning bolt strikes, but not very close to him. She then starts hitting him, saying he is doing something wrong. But our hero tries to counter this argument by saying it is just a superstition. But someone starts asking for help, and the two realize this, so they worry, turning around to see who it is. A demonic aura is coming from a place, and so our hero asks Zhao Jiao to climb on his back, taking her to investigate this case. Our hero activates his maximum speed, running through the area, and where he passes, he ends up destroying some things. Moreover, the two think it is a very good situation to be a cute couple. She questions if she is not heavy on his back, but he replies that she is not. She continues in a cute tone and says she can be even lighter so that our hero can carry her, then activates her magical ability, allowing her to create wings. In the sky, our hero questions what kind of power that is, but even she does not know what it is about. Then our MC, upon spotting someone, asks Zhao Jiao to look, as there is a girl leaning against a tree, clearly injured and in need of help. For some reason, the girl has bites with ketchup dripping beside her. Zhao Jiao looks and finds it disgusting, thinking that our MC is being perverted. But putting the joke aside, they pause on the ground and head to check on the girl's safety. Our hero puts his finger in her mouth to see if there is any breath. After checking her breathing, our hero says it is weak and that the one who called for help is likely her, so he must find a way to save her. She may have been poisoned, that is what Tang says to Zhao Jiao. Apparently, the poor thing was bitten by an extremely venomous snake, and for that, he needs to suck the poison from her body. Obviously, Zhao Jiao does not like this idea and starts to mistreat our hero, but then our hero responds that he needs a specialized professional for that. He decides to send a message to the god of medicine. The old man just received the message and starts criticizing our protagonist. However, what the gentleman received was the photo and a plea for help from our protagonist. But the gentleman has a wrong idea of what it is about. They then receive the message that the bite was given by a serpent demon from 1,000 years ago. He asks how he can treat the girl's wound, and the old man replies that for that, they need to find the original body of the snake. Our hero responds that it was reckless not to find the culprit, and his wife replies that the demonic aura from before is completely gone. While Tang Sheng was thinking about the difference in cultivated power, his wife keeps calling him in the background. He was worried because he could be defeated by the snake, but then he says that he is Tang Sheng, the protagonist of this mess. To find who he wants, our hero will use a compass and his phone for that. In addition to obviously having his wife as a tool, she, knowing this, feels sad. Then the location where the serpent demon is revealed, our hero and his wife prepare to hunt it down. In the place where they are, there are several snakes waiting for the two. A hand from a strange person caresses one of those snakes. A girl sitting on her throne simply waits when she finally observes that our hero and his wife have arrived. Outside, the two wonder if this is the right place. And suddenly, out of nowhere, a hydra appears outside. From the mouth of the hydra emerges the same woman as before. She says that based on the power felt, it was thought she was an immortal sage. She descends from where she was, wanting to talk to our protagonist, asking if he has fallen from the immortal realm and come to the human world. But the protagonist's wife is angry because the girl doesn't know how to dress properly, saying that she is showing too much of her body. This infuriates the serpent goddess. Finding JoJo's words disrespectful, the goddess commands her snake to attack the girl. Thus, the snake begins to coil around JoJo's body and ends up suffocating her. The goddess warns that there is no one left to disturb her cultivation. Obviously, Tang Feng would not like to see his wife being mistreated, so he charges in with the intention to attack. The two begin to use their most powerful attacks to defeat each other. While the two are still fighting, Tang receives a bite on his arm and also on his leg, but he manages to stop the attack and ironically asks if that is all the girl has. He takes advantage and uses the snakes like a beyblade, spinning the woman around, who wonders how he is not poisoned. Additionally, our MC grabs the girl's neck and tightens it, asking her to release his beloved. Despite being in the enemy's grasp, the serpent goddess warns that the hero has been completely careless to think he would be safe from the bites. She then explains that when capturing a snake, one must first grab it by the tail and then handle it, using this opportunity to attack Tang. With our hero trapped, she bites his hand and celebrates, as she has managed to inject poison into him, and although he is immortal, it won't be easy for it to leave his body. But while she is distracted celebrating, something happens to her body. For some reason, she feels weak. It is revealed to her that she is not the only one with poison to use, and that Tang Feng also possesses it. Gradually, all the snakes that were previously holding his wife begin to loosen, freeing the girl. The question that remains at that moment is how to save the girl who had been attacked, and for that, Feng will ask the god of medicine. On the phone, the doctor says that snakes have two different types of fangs, and therefore he must find the different one and extract it to use as medicine. He then pulls one of the goddess's teeth, but ends up pulling the wrong one and continues this repetition of pulling the wrong teeth. A few days pass, and the one who had been attacked begins to wake up from her deep sleep. She wakes up already asking who the two in front of her are, and they respond that they helped save her life and that she is in a hospital. Upon hearing that she is in the human world, she becomes scared, and our hero then discovers that she is also part of the immortal world. Already in thought, she comments on not having noticed that Tang and JoJo also possess a different aura that she has seen before. She finally introduces herself as the goddess of the mountain and that the snake resided on her mountain, and although it is strong, she has never managed to control the serpent goddess. Then our hero mocks her, saying that what defeated her was an extremely weak snake. The mountain responds that due to being busy in recent months, she had not trained, and the MC asks what a god gets busy with. She tries to change the subject, but in the end she reveals that she is weak because she has been dedicating herself to online games. They decide to leave the girl there so she can recover from the poison, and she thanks them. The protagonist's wife did not know how gods work, so she finds it impressive that they can become addicted to games. But Tang Feng does not respond, which leaves the girl confused and asking what is bothering him. But he replies that he suddenly thought of an amazing way to make money. For some reason, Xiao Qian is in front of our hero, asking if he really trusts the girl that much, and he responds that he does. And from now on, his phone will be used as a server for the Immortal Alliance game. She will be the DM of the game and starts to think that this means she is the administrator and the protagonist is the admin, thus forming a couple. She begins to feel shy with her own utopian thoughts, while Tang Feng is in the background asking if she is listening. The basic idea of our hero is to create an extremely competitive game with a limited time, based on 5 tower games. He will use the little beans as basic models for the players. Continuing with the equipment designs, all those little creatures start to get customized outfits. Then our hero gives an important task, which is the voice system for the girl. She begins to read the script programmed by the protagonist, saying that those lines seem familiar with the game she used to play. This annoys the protagonist, stating that it can't be called a copy, as it is a game made by an immortal. With that, she asks our hero why he wants to work with games from now on, and he responds that it is for the happiness of the immortals. She has a hasty idea, saying that our hero wouldn't do anything that would harm his business. Tang has even thought of a way to make a lot of money using equipment for sale in the store, and again thinks in the wrong way. His plan consists of allowing players who do not buy to use treasures as a form of payment for items in the stores. Thus he starts to find everything amazing, saying that while the immortal gods want to deceive humans, the protagonist wants to deceive the gods. He then warns that they should not stay still. At first he must find people to play the beta test, and one of the chosen ones was the god of death. In addition to obviously the god of bad luck who was present, the fairy Liu Lai, the god of wine, and the mother empress were also selected as beta testers. In the celestial castle, the goddess questions why the protagonist is calling her to play, and the god of souls wonders the same. Tang Feng greets his immortal companions, saying that for 1,000 years they have neglected their training, and that is why he thought of something to solve this. He announces that he created a game called League of Immortals, a very easy cultivation method to achieve. Again, he asks those invited to gather other people for their group, so they can have even more fun during the testing period. Zhao Qian asks why they didn't release the game immediately. He then responds that he needs to make the game as polished as possible to have a good game. In a completely different location, a person is playing with a brush. It is then that he receives a message saying that Tang Feng wants to be his friend. The woman in question who received the message asks who Tang Feng is, saying that he is interrupting her painting session. For his part, Tang Feng says that he heard this girl's name a long time ago and therefore would like to ask the great master Bo Hu for a favor. He wants her to paint for him. She responds that there is nothing in this world that she cannot paint. Therefore, she asks him to send the photos. Upon receiving them, she is surprised by the photos. The photos sent are of a loli, one of an extremely introverted girl, and one of an extroverted girl. The goddess of painting starts to have a fit, saying that all the photos sent are very cute and that she will do it with extreme delicacy. She also asks if he has more photos of that type, and if so, to send them promptly. Therefore, our hero gives her a bunch of manhwa, telling the girl to consider all of it as inspiration for her work. He begins to send all the manhwas he has. A week has passed, and it is time to meet with Bo Hu. He calls the goddess of painting, asking if the paintings he ordered are ready, but unfortunately, they are not due to procrastination. Upon hearing this, Tang Feng breaks his brush out of anger, criticizing the artist's professional ethics. This completely shocks her, leaving her sad. Our hero then responds that he will give the girl one more day to paint, and if she doesn't do it, she will have problems. Desperate, she says that one day to paint is very little time. Our hero does not care about that, so he begins to conjure a type of magic, handing the girl a device to speed up her work. On the day of the test, the god of bad luck is playing in his celestial location. He uses his character to absorb the fortune that exists in the game. And with that, he also manages to defeat the enemy's tower, with the system notifying his victory. He celebrates happily as he finally managed to level up, and Li Liu appears by his side, asking if he is playing the most talked about game in the immortal world. He responds that yes, and that he is at a level where no one can defeat him. As a good opportunist, Fairy Liu takes the chance to ask him to take her to the fabulous immortal level. As always, he does not refuse the request of the person he likes. She takes advantage of these achievements to boast among her sisters, and the other is happy to be graced with this game, as he will be able to play alongside his beloved. In addition to the other two, the god of medicine also enjoys his gameplay of hiding in the bushes and waiting for someone, but he was captured for not being very strategic and for thinking everyone is naive, thus being thrown to the ground. The one who captured him was Yu Lao, who asks not to be underestimated to that extent. The fight among everyone begins to worsen even more, using unusual feinting tactic. Xiao, the game administrator, says that with this game, the true personalities of the immortals have been revealed. But as a good greedy one, our hero does not care. However, the celestial queen begins calling him. She asks for help because she is having difficulties and cannot advance from the bronze to the silver level, in addition to having issues related to anger, which results in her eating more food, complaining that as she gains weight, her clothes no longer fit her properly. However, we do not think so, since our hero is rather mischievous and starts to have ketchup dripping from his nose. To solve this problem, Tang asks her to wait for her equipment, and as soon as it arrives, he will help her. Then he begins giving her more attributes, asking her to place them in the desired locations, as well as exchanging her treasures for in-game money. Thus, she is happy to know it was such a simple thing to do, and thanks the MC. But Tang knows it is not easy, and at the same time, he begins to receive all her treasures. Xiao Kulen complains because all the space she had disappeared due to the amount of things they received. She calls for her master, asking for help, but receives no response, as that was what Feng wanted from the beginning. With the amount of money she earned, she warns about not working harder for her husband. The employees complain about the work as they receive little and are still expected to deliver excellent results. One of them complains that she will faint due to the exhaustion she feels. The project leader asks them not to give up so easily or their names will fall into oblivion. While they were working, they receive a call from their main boss. Their boss, taking advantage of his bath, informs them about the success of the skins and that he will send them some money. But Bofu says she is not interested in money or magical artifacts. All she wants are the next chapters of the manhwa. She gives the final warning that if she does not receive her mangas, she will no longer work for him, and our MC responds that it is not his fault the author paused the manga. Thus, she replies that she does not care and will only believe what Tang Feng says if he goes to the human world and hears it from the author himself. She hangs up the call, leaving the young man speaking to himself while he worries about what might happen. At the protagonist's house, he tries to find a way to bring the girl to the human world, but it is not that simple. And he remembers that the last time a god descended to the human world, everything went terribly wrong as the MC had to use his phone to send him back, leaving nothing for the beta. Since he does not want to risk breaking his phone, only despair remains. So he begins searching among his treasures for something that might help him, and that is when he finds something that should work. That something in question is his wife. She will again be transformed into an object by him. He holds her hand, dragging her to a place. Thinking she would touch the little yellow chick, she begins to call her husband clumsy, but she understands as the young man only wanted her to touch one of the spheres. This disappoints the girl at an extreme level, to the point where she pretends to be angry for not actually touching the place she thought. Our hero notices and then asks why she is so disappointed. The protagonist's sphere begins to transform into something better, possibly allowing the goddess to come to the human world. Suddenly, what was one sphere became several sacred spheres. He is happy because his plan really worked, and he remains still next to his wife. Having the right amount, he will send one of the spheres to where the girl is, bringing her to the human world. Our hero sends it via FedEx, and the crystal arrives to the girl. She is very happy because she will finally be able to descend to the human realm. Then her brother appears calling for her, and she questions his presence. That little boy just wants her to sign his book, which contains several other signatures. Taking the paper to sign, he warns that if he had taken a little longer, he would almost not have been able to get her signature, as she is going to the human world. The unicorn replies that this is impossible, as the connection between the worlds has been severed. She informs him that she has an object that will facilitate her entry. As a curious boy, he picks up the ball and starts to fiddle with it, asking if that is it, when suddenly he begins to be sucked into the ball. He completely disappears, startling his sister who doesn't know what happened. But she is more angry about that than the fact that she won't be able to go to the human world. Our protagonist was waiting for her and complains about her delay when suddenly the portal starts to activate. Who comes out is not who Tang expected, but Bohu's brother, who falls face first onto the ground. Not understanding why that child appeared there, our MC calls out the name Yin Jiao Tong. Unfortunately, he will have to play babysitter, as the boy won't stop causing trouble. Moreover, the boy is hungry and asks to go eat, but our hero replies that he can't do that, as the child is a god with horns. More determined than ever, he thinks of a plan that consists of filing down his horn to be able to walk in the human world. As he starts to file it down, not only does the horn shrink, but a lot of ketchup starts to come out, and so Tang asks him to stop, as he will take the boy where he wants. However, before they can go, he must disguise himself using the MC's old clothes. Besides, there is a great resemblance between the two. Out of the blue, his wife appears behind him calling out and asking if that boy is his son with another woman. The girl starts to cry, saying she didn't expect this kind of thing. Then the boy asks Tang why he is being called a bastard, and he warns that Jojo is having wrong ideas again, as that little child is a god who is just wearing his childhood clothes. However, is dirty and unkempt, as a girl also appears behind Jiao. Nevertheless, she asks him not to be hasty, as that girl is the daughter of his cousin. In the end, both are babysitting children who are not their own, but Jiao doesn't want to hear it. Meanwhile, the unicorn takes the opportunity to talk to the girl and give her one of his candies. He also hands one to the protagonist and Jiao, saying that when they eat it, they will feel happier than ever. If there are chances of a fight from his wife, there will be, as the poor guy was compared to a child. While they were eating, something starts to happen to their bodies, as they are getting smaller and smaller. Then Tang questions what the boy did to make them like this, and the silver unicorn replies that his candy has a side effect. Tang looks to the side wanting to see his wife, but she is calmly tending to the plants. A few days pass and they decide to go to school. There, the MC asks how long the effect lasts, and the silver unicorn replies that it will last for a few days. In his thoughts, our hero complains, as he will have to serve as a babysitter in a school. Inside the classroom, the teacher asks if Tang knows how to solve that lesson. Being clueless, he panics as he doesn't know. In all the classes he is taking, the clueless one knows absolutely nothing. Plus, he discovers that schools now teach programming. He also finds out that some classes like singing, dancing, and sports have become important for his academic curriculum. While playing basketball, he gets confident, saying that times have really changed and goes for a dunk on everyone's heads, LeBron style.
Our video ends here. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, bye bye.